Close the doors of your mind. Close the gates of your mind. Close the gates of your palace, your ba'ith, your ahal, your ohel, your tent, your mishkan, your mikdash. The body that you dwell inside, the sentient body that you dwell inside, the house of Yahuwah, your hayikal. And bring your body to center. Bring your mind and your thoughts and your consciousness to center. Within your 12 cranial nerves, within your 12 melanin centers. Within your yad and your kaf, with your regal, within your inner man and your inner being of your shore. And bring yourself to connection with Yahuwah Elohim in the highest Shamayim, above all Elohims and all gods of the earth, above the 13th Shamayim, above the 7th Shamayim, the one who sits above all gods, Yahuwah Elohim. For today we acknowledge him, Yahuwah Elohim, the one who established the ends of the earth, the one who established the earth where he plants his seed and allows things to grow and sends his rain and snow that one may bear fruit. Yahuwah Elohim, who made the har and the nahar of the earth on the surface of the earth, the har and nahar under the earth, and the rivers and streams and the nahar that flows from his throne, that waters our waters and give water to us, that he may fill the clouds, the ab, with water. For when the clouds are full, they empty themselves. And when they empty themselves, they empty on his people. So as we move forward in the Ruach, we move forward in Yahuwah Elohim, we move forward in Yahushua Mashiach. For that is life eternal. Life eternal to know him. So this is the book of Psalms, the book of Tahalim, Psalms 103. Psalms 103, Tahalim 103 and 1. This is the book of Psalms, Tahalim 103 and 1. And it says, Barak Yahuwah, O my soul. Barak him, he says his nafash, right? That's in his inner man. And all that's within me. So everything that's within you that you have on the inside, your liver, your kidneys, your imagination, your thoughts, the malkut, the actual, the court, the four corners, with the mercy seat, with the steps, with the cherubim touching each other, with the throne, with Yahuwah sitting above the throne, and all these things that are within oneself. Aharon's rod that bud, the zizits, the 10 Commandments, all these things on the side of the ark and the Aron, with the cup of wrath, with the mercy seat. All that's within you. Barak, his Qahalath name, and his name is Yahuwah, right? With everything you have on the inside. Barak Yahuwah, O my nafash, and forget not all his benefits, right? So there are benefits to having these things within your ark and having no other Elohim next to it. Now, when you put another Elohim next to it, you're going to find yourself in many situations, and you put other food, like the knowledge of the good and evil, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil next to it, you're going to find yourself with a lot of disorders in your mind and your thoughts and your consciousness and your yetzer, your imaginations, and in your body. And it says, Barak Yahuwah, my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who forgives all your iniquity. So how he going to forgive all your iniquity? You got to confess your iniquity in order for him to forgive you. You have to humble yourself. Einu, Anah, Sanah, Anua, Kana, right? You got to humble yourself, and then who heals all your diseases, who redeems your life from the pit. He'll redeem you from what? The pit. Who crowns you with steadfast love and mercy. So he heals all your diseases. That means all of them. That means it's mental disease, mental health, depression, anxiety. He heals all your diseases. He heals all of the ailments that come out of your body. He heals all your cancer, your tumors, your tumor, all the diseases in your body. If you, with all that's within you, Barak his Qahalath name. But if you don't do it at all, then guess what? You won't have it. Who redeems your life from the pit, who crowns you with steadfast love and mercy, who satisfies you with good so that your youth is renewed like the eagles in that Tsar, right? All these are a part of what? Renewing your youth. Like the fountain of youth. You are renewed from within, inwardly and then outwardly, right? So this is the book of Yeshayahu chapter 40 and verse 1. Yeshayahu chapter 40 and verse 1. Yeshayahu chapter 40 and verse 1. Yeshayahu 40 and verse 1. It says, comfort my people, says your Elohim. Why do you think Yahushua cried out twice on Talit? My Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? He was comforting you. Why? Speak tenderly to Jerusalem. Why? And cry to her. Why do you think Yahushua did that? He was crying to her. that her warfare is ended. Why do you think he said it is finished on totality on the cross? He did this. He did all this. And guess what? That their iniquity is pardoned. What do you think we had a second Pesach for? Why do you think he cried out twice? Why do you think he was giving you comfort twice? And guess what? That she has received from Yahuwah's hand double for all her sins. Why do you think you had two Pesachs? And people say, why we got two Pesachs? Because the first one you didn't understand Yahushua. So that's why he's here for 40 days. And these are all a part of it. You know, people say, these are all a part of the actual understanding of it. Because nobody understood him after the third day when he rose. And even after waving the sheaf, nobody still knew him. That's why he was still trying to show them who he was. Verse 3, a voice cries in the wilderness, prepare the way of Yahuwah. Why? What do you mean in the wilderness? How long they was in the wilderness? 40 days, 40 years, right? When they in the wilderness for 40 years, how long Yahushua was here? He said he was crying in the wilderness, make straight in the desert a highway for our Halahim. He said, make straight a straight way, literally a way in the midbar, in the desert. A highway for our Halahim. That means it's real dry there. You know how it says a real dry place? And guess what? Every valley shall be lifted up, every one. And every mountain and hill be made low. How you do that? Earthquake? How's that going to happen? You know, the valley is going to come up and be like a mountain, and then the ones at the mountains be brought low. Why? Because Yahuwah looking at what grows in his field. Because what grows in the valley? Plants, flowers, you know, things like that. Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain shall be laid low. That's why he said the mountain of Yahuwah's house is going to be established at the top of the mountain. What do you think it was? You think it was a physical building? No, he said if the son of Adam be lifted up, I'm going to draw all people to myself. He lifted up the valley above the mountain. And then he was like, what is that on top of the mountain? That's the valley. And what was brought down? Jerusalem. That's why he sent an earthquake. He cried out, and the whole thing split in two. And every mountain and hill be made low. The uneven ground shall become level, and the round places a plain. So why he did all that? How is that going to happen? So you look at all that. So how is that going to happen? Go to verse 29. Actually, verse 28. So why he do all that for? He did all that for a reason. This is Psalm Yeshayahu 40:28. Have you not known? Have you not heard? Yahuwah is the everlasting Elohim, the creator of the ends of the earth. Have you not heard it? Many have testified of it. He created all the ends of the earth, even the ends of the earth where there's water. When you enter the gates of the Shamaim, right? He made it all. And guess what? The creator of the ends of the earth, he does not faint or grow weary. What are we doing right now? You're growing for 40 days, right? You're not supposed to grow weary because you're in the image and likeness of Yahuwah. Guess what? His understanding is unsearchable. So how are you growing weary when his understanding is unsearchable? Which means he could pour out so many things on you to where you can grow infinitely. He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength, right? And when you ain't got no koach, no might, no kayil, he increase your strength. He has to. When you don't grow weary and you believe on his name, with all that's within you, Barak is Qhdsh name. He heals all your diseases too. Even youth shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But guess what? But they who wait on Yahuwah shall renew their strength. So now you see why he said, why he exalting the valley? Why he lifting up the valley and bringing the mountains down low? For you. And guess what? They shall mount up with wings like eagles. He said, I mean, your youth is going to be renewed like the eagles. Because you see these youth, they don't fainted and grown weary, right? So now he's saying, you know, I know you're a little older, but he said, if you humble yourself like a child, I'm going to make you just like the youth, and you ain't going to grow weary anymore. Matter of fact, I'm going to raise you up. Because the youth done left. He said, so I'm going to use you. I know you was kind of weak, and I remember you was kind of weary when you, he said, I'm going to give you so much energy now to where you never lose any no more. Because your youth's going to be renewed like the eagles. Because now I'm healing all your diseases. I'm going to heal everything inside of you. Because you ain't going to forget his benefits. It's a car. Because those who grow weary, and can't do it anymore, they've grown weary. They've what? Forgot all his benefits. So being that you ain't forget, I'm going to heal your diseases. And I'm going to give you so much energy. You're going to be like an energized proton crystal. Right? You ain't even heard of that before. Right? You're going to be like one of them crystals that grow and power a whole city. Right? You're going to be like that. I'm gonna make you an energy source. And guess what? They shall mount up with wings like eagles, just like an eagle flies in the sky. In the Tsar. What do? They shall run and not be weary. He said, you ain't never gonna get tired. And they shall walk and not faint. He said, when you start moving your legs and your quads and your calves and your body, when you start moving around, when you start doing things, you're going to be like renewed like the eagle, man. You're going to be able to touch your toes. You're going to be able to touch your knee between your toes. Why? You're going to be able to move and do things that the youth do. Why? Because you did not forget his benefits. Why? Why you say all these things? Because these are all a part of it. Because everything that one does is for a reason, right? So this is the book of Ephesians. Actually, Peter. Kaf, Peter chapter 1 and verse 20. 1 Peter chapter 1. Or I think it's 2 Peter chapter 1. I think it's 2 Peter chapter 1. Yeah, 2 Peter chapter 1 and verse 3. 2 Peter chapter 1 and verse 3. 2 Peter chapter 1 and verse 3. His divine power has granted to us all things that pertain to life and righteousness and kindness, godliness, through the knowledge of him who called us to his own abode and excellence. So he's called you. By which he has granted to us his precious and very great promises, so that through them you may become partakers of the divine nature. You need to become partakers of the divine nature, supernatural being. It's all a part of your supernatural transformation. Having escaped from the corruption that is in the world, don't be conformed to the world, because of sinful desire. That's the whole point. That's what corruption is. And guess what? For this very reason, make every effort to supplement your Amunah with virtue. With virtue, knowledge. And with knowledge, self-control. And with self-control, steadfastness. And steadfastness, kindness, godliness. And with kindness, with brotherly affection and sisterly affection. And brotherly sisterly affection with ahaba, love, aha. For if these qualities are yours and are increasing, that's what you're supposed to be. That's what growing is. They're increasing. They keep you from being ineffective or unfruitful in the knowledge of Yahushua Mashiach. Knowledge of our master, Yahushua Mashiach. See, that's what happens. For whoever lacks these qualities is so nearsighted that he or she is blind and have forgotten. Doesn't see why they said, and forget not all his benefits. Because if you do, you're going to grow weary like them youths, and you're going to end up doing something. They're going to be tired. And guess what? It's so nearsighted, and he or she is blind and have forgotten that they were cleansed from their former sins. He said, you forgot. He said, how you forget that quick? Right? So this is the book of Romans 12 and 2. Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12 and verse 2. It says, do not be conformed to this world, right? Because you know the conformity makes you comfortable. And guess what? But be transformed by the renewal of your mind. He said, I'm gonna give you so much energy. You're gonna be greater than a nuclear reactor. Matter of fact, you'll be able to power your whole body on levels that never even was actually powered before. Right? That's your body. Your protons, electrons, neurons, quarks, molecules, photons. You're gonna give it so much energy. Right? The energy wave gonna travel from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. It's gonna flow around you always. And it's all a part of it. And that by testing, you may discern what is the will of Yahuwah, right? Because you got to test. Why do you think all them tests come? You got to find out what the will of Yahuwah is. What he want me to do? what is good and acceptable and perfect, right? And that's all a part of it. Right, so this 23rd day of the second month. Shani Kadash, right? Look at the house, Ba'ith, the second letter of the alphabet, but the second month. But you look at Zu, this is a month of flowers, right? It's called a month of flowers, right? Flowers are important, right? Because it lets you know what seasons are. But then when you start seeing things erratic, you know that Yahuwah is angry, right? You be like, okay, so what's going on now, right? So this is 37 days since the 17th day of the first Chag Matzah, Feast of Unleavened Bread, when Yahusha rose on the third day of Chag Matzah, right? So we 37 days in. 36 days since Yahusha appeared in the house with his disciples and revealed himself on the fourth day, the 18th day of the first Chag Matzah. Now we're 28 days since Bakur waving the sheaf, the Omer, on the 49th count toward the 50th day. There are 21 days left in the count toward Chag Shabuah. You see how we said, how does this time move like this? Really quickly. Right, this is the book of Acts, chapter 1. So look at all them days. He says, so how are you doing from there? We just did the second Chag Matzah and the second Pesach. But then he say, okay, do we need to go another 7 days? How you feeling? Do you feel like you want to commit sin? Do you feel like you want to go and do back to what you used to do? Do you feel like you want to go back to the same attitudes and the things you used to do before? If you feel that way, we can do another 7 days, just so that we can make sure that everything is good. And if we do another 7 days, then guess what? We'll probably be at like 11 days left. If you want to do it that way, you know how people say. If you want to go another 7 days, because that's the whole point, to keep your mind fixed on him. Now, if you don't want to keep your mind fixed on him, then we can go back and do another 7 days. It all depends. And you can do this. You can do this every day, every single week if you want to. And you'll never lose your mind. You know what I say? You'll never lose your mind. So this is Acts chapter 1 and 1. Acts chapter 1, 1 through 5. And in the first book, O Theophilus, I have dealt with all that Yahusha began to do. Right? And teach. So he had to do it. So you telling me he ain't do the second Chag? He had to do it and teach. He wouldn't be no hypocrite. I got to do it, and I got to teach it. So therefore, I'm not a hypocrite. Now, if you just teach it and you don't do it, then you're a hypocrite. So that's why he said, I was here for 40 days doing and teaching, right? Until the day when he was taken up, after he had given command through the Kudash Ruach of the Shalakim, whom he had chosen. He presented himself alive after his suffering by many proofs, appearing to them during 40 days, speaking about the Malkuth of Yahuwah within. Why? Because he has to do it and show it. That's the whole point. And while staying with them, he ordered them not to depart from Jerusalem. He said, don't leave. Don't leave. But wait for the promise of the Father, which he said, you heard from me. For Yahuwah not immersed with Ma'im. He said he immersed with Ma'im. But you will be immersed with the Kudash Ruach not many days from now. He said, not many days from now. So this is the month of flowers. Right? This is the month of flowers. They said, what kind of flower is this? Right? They call this the everlasting flowers. He said, why do they call it the everlasting flowers? They call these everlasting flowers. They call them everlasting, right? Month of flowers. He said, keep it on the trend. Right, everlasting flowers, right? So everlasting flowers primarily referring to the species of Helichrysum bracteatum, straw flower, or Anophelis margaritacea, pearly everlasting, are specialized plants with papery, stiff bracts that retain their shape and brilliant color for years when dried. He said they still, even though they have no water on the inside, they still retain their brilliant colors for years when dried. That's why they call them everlasting flower, because they don't lose what they are, even when they're at the lowest point and having no water on the inside. He said they for some reason still got their colors. Everlasting dried flowers, while cut, fresh flowers symbolize beauty and fleeting life. Why? As soon as you cut them, but they're getting ready to die. But for some reason, these flowers still remain their color after a long period of time. Everlastings represent longevity and immortality, right? So you look at all of the immortal beings that's on the inside. He said, though our outward man perish, the inward man is renewed day by day. Though our outward man perish, I have another building laid up in everlasting life, right? It's another building. It's longevity and immortality. Everlastings are plants that retain their shape and color after they have been picked and dried. That's what they do. He said that's what happens. Right, so this is the Aquarian. This is the Aquarian of Yahushua Mashiach. This is the Aquarian. This is the Aquarian of Yahushua Mashiach. The Aquarian. Chapter 80. The Aquarian chapter 80 and verse. The Aquarian chapter 80 and verse 4. And it says, and he was present when the Pharisees told Yehuchanan of Yahusha and his mighty works. He heard the answer of the harbinger. He heard him Barak, the name of Yahusha, whom he called the Mashiach. And then he spoke to Yehuchanan and he said, pray, tell me more about this Yahusha whom you call the Mashiach. He said, man, tell me more about this man. Why? And Yehuchanan replied, this Yahusha is the love of Elohim made manifest. He said, this is the love of Elohim made manifest. And guess what? Lo, men are living in the lower plains. What do you mean living in the lower plains? Because remember, we talked about the lower valleys are going to be exalted above the mountains, right? So why? He said they live in the lower plains, the plains of greed. Now this is before Yahusha died. Selfishness. For self, they fight. They conquer with sword. That's all they do. They're in the lower plains. And it says, in every land, the strong enslave and kill the weak. That's what they do. In every land. He say, I'm going to go somewhere else. Nah, it's the same thing. And guess what? All kingdoms rise by force of arms, for force is king. Right? He said, force is king. This Yahushua comes to overthrow this iron rule of force and seat Ahaba on the throne of power. So that's the whole point. Well, you say, what do you mean? Be transformed by the renewal of your mind. So what is he trying to put on the throne inside of you? You think he's trying to make you into a person full of greed and selfishness to destroy? No, he's trying to put his love, Ahaba, on the throne. And that it rule you every single day, every minute, every microsecond, every millisecond of every day. That you have no defects within oneself. And guess what? And Yahushua cried, and it says, verse 10, this Yahushua comes to overthrow the iron rule of force and seat Ahaba on the throne of power. And Yahushua fears no man. Right? He said he feared nobody. He Qahalath boldly in the courts of the kings, and everywhere that victories won by force of arms are crimes, that every worthy end may be attained by gentleness and love. Ahaba. And guess what it says? Just as the prince of Shalom, Malach Sadiq, the priest of Elohim, won gallant victories in war without shedding of a drop of blood. You ask, where are the temples of Mashiach? You say, where they at? He said, where are these people at? They ain't nowhere in the world. He ministers at shrines not made with hands. And guess what? His temples are the hearts of the Qahalath men and women who are prepared to see the king. Right? So what do you think all this is for? Everything we're doing is for a reason. Everything we're doing is for a reason, right? So this is the book of Numbers. The book of Numbers, Midbar. The book of Numbers, chapter 13 and verse 1. The book of Numbers, Midbar, Numbers chapter 13, verse 1. Numbers chapter 13 and verse 1. It says, and Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I am giving the people of Yasharal. from each tribe of their fathers you shall send a man, every one a chief among them. So you think them 12 gates ain't chosen? Them 12 chosen stones, you think they ain't chosen? And guess what? So Mashah sent them from the wilderness of Paran according to the commandment of Yahuwah. All of them men who were heads of the people of Yasharal, they were the Rosh. And these were their names. From the tribe of Rahoban, Shammua. From the tribe of the son of Zakur. From the tribe of Shamuan, Shaphat, the son of Hor. The tribe of Yehuda, Qahalath, the son of Yaphanah. It says the tribe of Yitzchar, Igal, the son of Yusuf. From the tribe of Apharim, Husha, the son of Nun. Hoshea, it says Yahusha, the son of Nun. From the tribe of Benjamin, Palti, the son of Raphu. From the tribe of Zabulon, Gadiel, the son of Sadi. The tribe of Yusuf, that is, the tribe of Manasseh, Gadi, the son of Susi. From the tribe of Dan, Amiel, the son of Gemali. From the tribe of Ashar, Sether, the son of Mikael. The tribe of Naphtali, the son of Vash. The tribe of Gad, Gileal, the son of Maki. These were the names of the men whom Mashah sent to spy out the land. So you did all that. And everything that you see, they did all of that, right? He say, so do you think them 12 gates ain't chosen? Those 12 shalakim that he chose, them 12 foundations with the 12 gates, that's fixed according to the 364-day cycle. It's already been here. Right, skipping over to verse 20. Actually going to verse 19. Actually going to verse 18. And see what the land is, right? So that's why he sent them. And whether the people who dwell in there are strong or weak, whether they are few or many, and whether the land that they dwell in is a good or bad. Why do you think they do all that? We just read it. They get ready to overthrow. What do you think they get ready to do? And whether the cities that dwell in are camps or strongholds, and whether the land is rich or poor, or whether there are trees in or not. Right? You gotta look at everything. If there ain't no trees, what's gonna happen? Man, ain't no trees there. Why you wanna live there for? He's like, ain't no trees. Be of good courage and bring some of the fruit of the land. He said, bring some of the fruit of the land. Right? He said, why you want fruit? I want pari. I want to see the fruit of the land. Right? Not the other stuff. What kind of fruit they got? Now the time of the seasons of the first ripe grape. He said, now is the time of the seasons of the first ripe grapes. Right? Why? Because you start to see the seasonal cycle change. Because just because a place looks a certain way doesn't mean it's going to stay like that. So you got to go there when it looks the best. Right? Because in the wintertime, it don't look the best. You have to go there when it looks the best. Right? So they went up and spied out the land of the wilderness in Zin of Rahab near Leo Hamath. They went into the Negev and came to Hebron. Right? And it says, skipping over to verse 23. And they came to the valley of Eshcol and cut down from there a branch with a single cluster of grapes. They cut down a branch. And they carried it on a pole between two of them, right? That's how big it was. So they had giant trees, what you call giant trees. They had a giant cluster of grapes in between both of them. That's how big it was. They also brought some pomegranates and figs, Pomegranates and figs and grapes. So what you should be eating. But guess what? Why do you think Yahushua was in between two thieves? Why do you think they carried a cluster of grapes? Why do you think he said in your book of Yukin 9:15, he said, I'm the vine, you're the branches, you can do nothing without me. Why do you think the two men were carrying it? Because they were trying to tell you, I'm the vine in the middle, and you can't do nothing without me. Matter of fact, you can't even get a right gauge on the land unless you got me in the middle of you. In the midst of you. You can't do nothing. The place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster that the people of Yasharal cut down there, from there. And at the end of 40 days, so how long Yahushua was here for? He was here for 40 days, seen by all his disciples. They returned from spying out the land. He said they returned from spying out the land at the end of 40 days. What do you think Yahushua doing? For 40 days. Why do you think he here? For 40 days. And what he doing? And they came to Mashah and Harun and to all the congregation. Why do you think Yahushua was here? He was trying to show you, I'm the vine. You don't see that? See them two men right there? I'm the vine, you the branches. You see me right there? That's me. You know, when you came to spy out the land and you brought me and you carried me between two thieves, just like you bear the Arun, the ark, with two, what? Malachi? Then when you came to the tomb, and in between the tomb, you had a Malachi on the front, on the top of it, and at the bottom. And a matter of fact, it had a stone in the middle of it. He said, you remember that? That's me. And they came to Mashah and Aharon and to all the congregation, the people of Yasharal in the wilderness of Paran at Chdsh, and they brought back the word to them that all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. So you look at your fruit. That's what you would want. I want to see your fruit in order for me to make a determination of what you all about. And they told him, we came to the land to which you sent us. It flows with milk and honey, is producing, and this is its fruit. I mean, the rivers are flowing, the rain is falling, and guess what? Look at the fruit that grow on the tree. Because when Yahuwah rain come on in, look at what happens. However, the people who dwell in the land are strong, right? So they strong. What do you mean they strong? And the cities are fortified and very large. He said they very huge. The cities are huge, but the fruit big though. And besides, we saw the descendants of Anak there. We saw the Nephilim. We saw other big people in that big city. It's a big city with big people. The Amalekites dwell in the land of Negev, and the Hittites and Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the hill country. And the Canaanites dwell by the sea and along Yarden. So it wasn't just the Anak there. It was more other people as well. But Caleb quieted the people before Mashah and said, why? Because you're looking at a feat that's impossible. But guess what? Let us go up at once and occupy it, for we are well able to overcome it. He said, nah, let us go, man. We can do this. But you know what happens when you have unbelief? When you have things in your heart and your mind? He said, we're able to overcome it. This is after 40 days. Why do you think he told them that stay in Jerusalem till you get what? Till you get the power from on high. Why do you think he told them for 40 days? Because you know you have some people who don't believe. Oh my gosh. The Amalekites, the Anaks, the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, and then you start to disbelieve. So he has to allow you to grow to bear it. Let us at once occupy it, for we are well able to overcome it. This is why people can't do certain things or certain feats in their life. They quit as soon as they see some kind of adversity. You stop. Then the men who had gone up with him said, we are not able to go up against this people, for they are stronger than we are. Then you have unbelief. And then once the man faint and stop, guess what everybody else do? The whole household. That's what happens when you don't. That's why we did second Pesach. Why is second Pesach for? And Kagmata. Because if the Ish don't do it, the Rosh don't do it, then guess what happens to the rest of the household? They all follow suit. They do everything the same thing. We're not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we are. So they brought to the people of Yasharal an evil report of the land. What was the evil report? That they couldn't go up? No, the evil report was, we don't have no Amunah. We don't have no faith. We don't believe. That's the evil report. We don't believe that Yahushua rose on the third day and he appeared to the disciples 40 days, and we don't believe that he ain't left yet. Matter of fact, we don't believe what he said after he left after 40 days. We don't believe it. So therefore you got no Amunah. And guess what? And they spied out the land, saying, the land through which we have come out to spy it out is a land of devourers that devours its inhabitants, right? Right? We don't know what that is, but there are other things around that place that devours people, not just people. Other people devour people, and the inhabitants and the animals and the plants and a whole bunch of other things devour people. You don't know what that looked like. And all the people that we saw, yeah, they were talking about the land, the things around the land, in the trees, devours people as well as the people do. And all the people that we saw in it are the great of great height. So you think about that. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come from the Nephilim. And we seemed ourselves like grasshoppers, so we seemed to them. So why is this important? He says, so why is this important, right? This testament of Asher. Testament of Asher. Testament of Asher. Yeah, that's what we want. 12 patriarchs. Testament of Asher. Testament of Asher, 12 patriarchs, chapter 1. Testament of Asher, chapter 1 and verse 1. The copy of the Testament of Asher, what things he spake to his sons in the 125th year of his life. Right? So he 125 years. For while he was still in health, right? Remember, matter of fact, he said, don't forget Yahuwah's benefits, who heals all your diseases. He said to them, hearken ye children of Asher, to your father, and I will declare to you all that is upright in the sight of Yahuwah. 2 ways hath Elohim given to his sons of men, to the sons of men, 2 inclinations, 2 kinds of actions, 2 modes of action, and 2 issues. Why do you think Yahushua was here for 3 days, 40 days? You had the first Pesach, then you had the second Pesach, and then he was here for 40 days. Why? Because you got 2 inclinations. You have two inclinations, and 2 kinds of actions, and 2 modes of action, and 2 issues. See, your first issue was that when you came out of Mizraim, you thought you were free from all your sin. So I need to get you to put the second one into action so you can understand it. And 2 issues. Therefore, all things are twos. You say, so why we had a second cogmata? Because all things are twos. One against the other. One against the other. For there are 2 ways of good and evil. Now you see why he told you. He said, every tree that I command you to eat, you may freely eat, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, don't eat of it. Why do you think he said, it's a good land, flowing with producing, with vines and everything, but we saw a land that it devours its inhabitants. We saw the children of Anak, the Nephilim. And he brought that to the people. Of every tree he commanded you to eat, but every tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it. For the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. Because there's 2 issues we got going on here. We got 2 modes of inclination operating here, right? Therefore, if for the 2 are 2 ways of good and evil, and there are 2 inclinations in our breast, and discriminating them. Therefore, if the soul takes pleasure in the good inclination, all its actions are in righteousness. So I see Caleb. That's Caleb right there. What do you think? That's Caleb. What did Caleb say? He said, man, we could do this thing, right? All his actions are in righteousness. And if it is sin, it's straight away repentant, right? He said, I got to get that mind out of me. That's knowledge of good and evil. But guess what? For having its thoughts set upon righteousness, it cast away wickedness. That's why I think Caleb was saying that in the middle of the people. He was casting away the wickedness that was already in him. He had 2 issues. Why do you think Yahushua was here for 40 days? They were doing it for 40 days. They were spying out the land. But guess what? It straightly overthroweth the evil and uprooted sin. But if it incline to the evil inclination, all its actions are in wickedness, and it driveth away the good, and cleaveth to the evil. Because that's what we do. You think when you don't have no Amunah and you start talking with no Amunah, you try to get people to lose Amunah, what do you think gonna happen to those people? Their fruit gonna turn to male raw fruit. We talked about the fruits that came from Yirmiyahu. I saw a Dawood good fruit, tall fruit, but then I saw another with evil fruit, raw fruit. They could not even be eaten. And guess what? And it driveth away the good and cleaveth to the evil and ruleth by Satan, by law. Even though it worked what is good, he perverted it with evil. They worked what was good. They went 40 days. They were with him for 40 days. They spied out the land for 40 days. But then after they did all that good they brought it back and said, man, it's a good land. Look at this vine we got. Flowing with producing milk and honey, like they say. All throughout. Then they perverted it with evil, they said. With that lack of Amunah they had. And that perverts the whole thing. A little leaven levels the whole lump. For whenever it beginneth to do good, it forces the issue of the action into evil for him, seeing that the treasure of the inclination is filled with an evil spirit. It is filled with an evil ruach. And that's what happens. It's filled with a demon. For whenever it beginneth to do good, he forces the issue and the action into evil for him, seeing that the treasure of inclination is filled with an evil spirit. A person then may with words help the good for the sake of the evil. He said, I'll try to help. Yet the issue of the action leadeth to mischief. It's still going to lead to mischief, even though I'm trying to impart to you the bar to try to cancel out all that evil. He said it still leads to mischief. This is a man or woman who showeth no compassion upon him who serveth his turn in evil. And this thing have two aspects. The whole is evil. All that's in part of it, right? Skipping over to verse 13. Though indeed he has love, yet is he wicked who concealeth what is evil. Now you see why Yahushua read in the Quran, he said he sit on the throne. He said, I'm going to establish mine with ahava and gentleness, right? But he said, though indeed he have love, yet is he wicked who concealeth what is evil. When you don't tell what you concealing it. For the sake of the good name, of the good name, but the end of the action tending to evil. Right? All right, skipping over to verse 20. Verse 20. But do not ye, my children, wear two faces like unto them. Why do you think Caleb ain't do that? Don't wear two faces of goodness and of wickedness, but cleave unto the goodness only. For Elohim hath his habitation therein, and men desire it. Why? Because it's a knowledge of good and evil. Don't have two faces. See, now you see why he had a second Pesach. He's like, man, don't have two faces. You got to be the same way you were in the first and then the second one. He said, don't have two faces. Why? For they are double-faced, serve not Elohim. He said, man, you double-faced. But their own lust, so that they may please Satan, Shaitan, Bailar, and men like unto themselves. He said, that's the only reason people do it. I'm just trying to please everybody else instead of pleasing Yahuwah. And therefore, you're trying to make everybody think make yourself look a certain way. But in actuality, you're serving two faces. You got two faces. I'm in the world and I'm of the world. But I still serve Yahuwah. I'm in the world and of the world, but I still serve Yahuwah. Verse 22. For good men, even or women, that are of single face, though they be thought by them that are double-faced to sin, are just before Elohim. For many in killing the wicked do two works, of good and evil, but the whole is good, because he has uprooted and destroyed that which is evil. Right? So That's the whole point. Going back to Numbers. Go to Numbers in chapter 14 and 1. The midbar, Numbers chapter 14 and verse 1. Numbers chapter 14 and verse 1. Then all the congregation raised a loud cry, and the people wept that night. They all cried at night. And all the people of Yasharal grumbled against Mashah and Aharon. And they loomed. How you say it? Loomed? They grumbled against him. Why? The whole congregation said to him, what would we have died in the land of Mizraim? So you look at all the other 10 tribes that caused the grumbling in the people, the heads. Would we have died in the land of Mizraim? Or would that we have died in the wilderness? He said, man, would we have died in the wilderness? Why? Because you know, the midbar, the desert, now they've grown weary and faint. You know why? And guess what? Or would that we have died in the wilderness? Why is Yahuwah bringing us into this land? He said, why is Yahuwah bringing us into this land? Even though he showed it to him. Even though he fasted 40 days and 40 nights. Even though they were spying out 40 days and 40 nights. And guess what? Yahushua was here for 40 days. But then he said, you know what? Or would that we have died in this wilderness? Why is Yahuwah bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? He said, why are you doing this? Our wives and our little ones will become prey. He's like, man, look at that. Our wives and our little ones going to become prey. So you look at all that, right? So now you see where it trickles down to, right? He that despises wisdom and nurture, his wives are foolish and his children wicked. It started to travel down. The iniquity of the fathers fall upon the children. It starts to travel down. Would it be better for us to go back to Mizraim? He said, it may be better for us, man. We won't have to do this. Because you know why? When you face a hard battle, when you face a tough trial, you want to go back. When it becomes hard, you want to go back. And they said to one another, let us choose a leader and go back to Mizraim. And they're going to find somebody. Man, YouTube got plenty of them. How you say Instagram got plenty of them. It's a whole bunch of people you could pick to go take you back to Mizraim. It ain't hard. Then Mashah and Aharon fell on their faces before all the people, the Aydah and the congregation, the people of Yasharal, and Yahusha the son of Nun, and Caleb the son of Yefunah, who were among those who spied out the land, tore their clothes and said to all the people of Yasharal, the land which we passed through to spy it out is an exceedingly goodly land. So now they're trying to impart to the bar to try to pacify all the evil they got, the good and the evil that's going on in their heart and their mind. That's the knowledge of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in their heart and their mind. And he's trying to reprove them like Adam should have done and tell them what needs to be done. And guess what? The land which we passed through to spy the land is an exceedingly good land. If Yahuwah delights in us, he will bring us into this land and give it to us. A land that flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against Yahuwah. That's the whole point. Don't fall away. That's the whole point. Don't fall away. And do not fear the people of the land, for they are bread for us. They are lakam. They're like eating bread. He says nothing. Their protection is removed from them, and Yahuwah is with us. Do not fear them. You know, some people think Yahuwah is with us. With all that doubt, error, and the knowledge of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil inside of your inward man. You think Yahuwah with you? And you finna go up. Their defenses are down. Their protection is down. No, it ain't. Man, they got a force field so big because you ain't got no Amunah. They got a force field so strong you won't be able to penetrate it. Then all the congregation said to stone them with stones. He's like, you know why they want to stone them with stones? Because they want to go back to Mizraim. They want to set them up because they fell away. The whole congregation fell away from the other people talking, the other heads talking. Then the whole congregation fell away from and want to stone the two people, telling them you can still do it. We can still make it. We can still keep going. Yahuwah is going to give it to us. Now you want to stone somebody because you want to go back to Mizraim. That's the same thing in a household, right? In a marriage. The same thing. One person want to go back to Mizraim, and then the other person want to try to take the person out because they want to go back to Mizraim and want to kill him. Because he's telling you to the bar, saying, Yahuwah, we can keep going. We got Amunah. They say, no, I want to go back to Mizraim. You say, no, Yahuwah, if he's delighting us, he's going to bring us into the land. He's going to give us everything he said he's going to do. No, I want to go back to Mizraim. No, we're not going back to Mizraim. He said, then they want to kill you after that. And if you don't want to go back to Mizraim, some of them force their hand. They go back to Mizraim, and you'll never see them again. You won't. And guess what? Their protection is removed from them, and Yahuwah is with us. Do not fear them. Then all the congregation said to stone them with stones, but the Kabod of Yahuwah appeared at the tent meeting and to all the people of Yasharal. And Yahuwah said to Mashah, how long will this people despise me? That's why Yahushua said he was despised and rejected by men, a man acquainted with grief. So after 40 days, what are you going to do? That's the whole point. Because this happened after 40 days. So what are you going to do after 40 days? You're going to be quarreling and fighting and doubting and wanting to go back. Even after Yahushua explained himself for 40 days and 40 nights. So what are you going to do? That's the whole point. How long will this people despise me? Or are you going to despise Yahushua's words? He's been talking for 40 days. He was despised and rejected by men, a man acquainted with grief, a man of sorrows. How long will they do not believe in me? Now you see why. How long? In spite of all the signs that I have done among them. Why do you think Yahushua was here for 40 days? Why do you think he's here now? I'm showing you all the signs. I will strike them with pestilence and disinherit them, and I will make you a nation greater and mightier than they. But Mashah said to Yahuwah, the Egyptians will hear of it, for you brought this people in your might from among them. And they will tell the inhabitants of the land. He said they're going to talk about you. Right? They're going to scandalize you. Right? So this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, 3 through 14. And as he sat on the Mount of Olives, his disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and end of the age? Then he just read, he just said he showed them signs. I showed them many, even all the signs. How long will these people despise me? I showed them all these signs. And Yahushua answered, see that no one leads you astray. You see them men that came back? And they talk about the children of Anak. And man, they people tall. Man, this city's great and walled to the top of the thing. Matter of fact, you see all these other things they got? They got the Canaanites and all these other people. And the land devours people, man. They got things in there that'll kill you. See that no one leads you astray. For many will come in my name and say, I am Mashiach, and will lead many astray. They're going to act like they're the head. They're going to act like they're heads. They're going to act like they're a good person to follow. And guess what? And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. He's like, man, you see that? See that you are not alarmed, for these things must take place. The end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. These are the beginning of birth pains. Verse 9. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death. Man, they want to stone Caleb and Yahushua. They wanted to stone them. They wanted to kill them. And you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. Why? Because they have no Amunah that didn't move or stutter. They did not fall away from Yahuwah. Why? Because the other people wanted to go back to Mizraim, to the Mizraim gods. They still stayed firm with Yahuwah Elohim and saying, we going back, we going forward. But you know, they want to go back to Mizraim and go back to the gods of the world. And they prospered during that time. And they ain't had to fight no battles like this. And then many will fall away. That's what just read. They all fell away. All the people in the congregation and the people who spoke to them, to the people. And guess what? And betray one another. They want to kill each other. And hate one another because they left Yahuwah. Ain't got no Amunah. They ain't got no faith because they got the knowledge of good and evil. They two-faced. Because you two-faced. That's how it is. People say, why Yahuwah don't like two-faced marriages? He hate two-faced marriages. Knowledge of good and evil. He hate two-faced marriages. Because when two-faced marriages get in there, there'll be a lot of fighting and quarreling and a lot of stoning. A lot of people getting taken out. Women getting taken out, husbands getting taken out, husbands betrayed, women being destroyed. He don't like two-faced. That's why I say the two shall become one. Why do you think we had two Pesachs? Two became one. Now you understand it. That's why you have two Pesachs. Two becoming one. The two shall become one. And then they did it for another 7 days. It's all a part of it. And then many will fall away, betray one another, and hate one another. That's why you say, why in marriages people hate each other? Because fall away and betrayal, and they ain't got no Amunah. That's the only reason they hate each other. And many false Nabi'im will arise and lead many astray, and false prophetesses too. False women. False Nabiyahs will lead women astray too. They will. And men. And will lead many astray, and because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. He said, you'll become cold-hearted toward Yahuwah and people. But the one who endures unto the end will be saved. You got to keep going. Regardless, if people fall away, betray one another, and hate each other, you got to endure all the way to the end. And you ain't going to be saved. And this truth of the Malkuth will be proclaimed through the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and the end will come. Why? Because they need to know, those people, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Anak, children of Anak, the Nephilim, they all need to know. Everybody need to know. So that word for fall away is scandalizo. Fall away is scandalizo. Right? I put betray last time. It says scandalizo. So many will scandalize, entrap, entice to sin. That's what they was trying to do. Why do you think they were coming back with that evil, saying those things about the land? They're going to entice you to sin and go back to Mizraim. Displeasure. Why do you think? And you know why men and women listen to people like that? Because it appeals to their flesh. They two-faced it. It tends to the evil fruit on the inside of you. Your evil figs. You got evil figs on the inside of you. So therefore, it tends to that. Displeasure. Offend. Make to offend. How long will these people despise me? And guess what? To scandalize. They're going to scandalize you. The word for betray is paradioami. It means to surrender. That means they're going to fall away. They're going to scandalize you. And what? Betray. They're going to surrender. Surrender to what? To their desires. They're going to go back and entrust or transmit. And they try to transmit their scandalizing ways onto you. To go back to Mizraim. To betray. They're going to betray. It says to bring forth or cast, deliver, hazard, or put in prison. They're going to try to put you in prison. Why? Because they know they want to go back to Mizraim, so they're going to try to put you in prison so they can go back to Mizraim. That's the only reason they try to put you in prison. That's why they do it. Because I'm going back to Mizraim and you trying to tell me, trying to convince me not to go back to Mizraim, so therefore I'm going to call the cops on you or the police on you. And I'm going to throw you in prison like they did Yirmiyahu. You telling me I'm going to King of Babal. He's like, no, I'm going to throw you behind in prison. Why? Because that's what they do. Because they're betraying. They don't want to listen to your voice no more. Then they try to do that. And they going back to Mizraim. He said, one way or another. And you know what's going to happen to you? You're going to be put in prison, or you're going to be thrown in prison, or maybe thrown in prison. They're going to try to transmit their mindset onto you. See, I'm going back to Mizraim. You coming with me? If you're not coming with me, they're going to try to transmit that mind on you. If you're not coming with me, you'll never see me again. This thing is over with. This relationship is over. This marriage is over. I'm going back to Mizraim. You better not tell me I can't rumple pum pum. You better not tell me I can't go do what I want to do. You can't tell me that, boy. No, I'm going back. So he said, nah, I ain't going back. He said, this thing over with, man. They're going to betray you. They're going to hate you. As a matter of fact, you're going to fall away. They're going to try to get you to fall away. They're going to scandalize you. You know that can make you fall away. When people start scandalizing, talking about you and slandering you and gossiping and lying, and you know what happens on you? That make your mind faint. You be like Caleb, like, man, you might be right, man. Caleb might have faint, man, you might be right, man. I don't even want to do this no more. You might get to that point, like somebody start talking like this. That's the knowledge of the tree, the knowledge of good and evil. That's that knowledge. That's what he was that two-faced person. They start talking like this, and then they come to Yahuwah, and then they start talking like this. Then that creates thoughts in your mind. You're saying, it do. It's a subconscious trap. Right? And it says entrap. That's what it does. Entrap. Trip you up. They're trying to make you stumble, stone and stumbling. They are stone and stumbling. Stumble, entice to sin. That's just like cool in the garden. That now that mindset of good and evil, you ain't really about this thing, ain't you? I already know, because I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at two beside. He said two become one, and I'm looking at how the pattern they did it for 40 days, and you don't want to do it. You know how it is? You go ahead and do it first. I'll stand behind you and watch you do it. That's what they want to do. They want to stand behind you and watch you do it. Because they don't want to do it, because they scared. That's Caleb and Yahusha. We well able to go do this. Man, this kid keep going, right? That's how it works. But then the other ones be like, yeah, we ain't going up. And Caleb like Joshua, like, man, we going up right now. Running full speed, right? Like Jonathan and his armor bearer, right? We going to take this thing. They used to be sitting back in the cave like Saul. That's what Saul and them were doing. They were sitting in the cave with Saul. They were scared. When they scared, they were in the cave. And Jonathan said, no, if Yahuwah delighting us, when they do this and they come, we're going to run at them full speed. But guess what? It says displeasure, offend, make to offend. These are all a part of it. Right? Going back to the book of Joshua, or your Numbers chapter 14. Numbers chapter 14 and verse 13. Numbers chapter 14 and verse 4. Numbers chapter 14 verse 13. Numbers chapter 14 verse 13. But Mashah said to Yahuwah, then the Egyptians will hear of it, for you brought up this people in your might from among them. And they will tell the inhabitants of this land, right? They have heard that you, O Yahuwah, are in the midst of this people. For you, O Yahuwah, are seen face to face. And your cloud stands over them, and you go before them. A pillar of cloud by day, and a pillar of fire by night. I mean, it's just like a pillar being lit. Them 7 pillars, right? But you say you a pillar of fire by day and not night. That's morning sacrifice and evening sacrifice. That's why you need the Bakar and Arab sacrifices. That's why you need the Bakar and Arab meditations. That's why you need the Bakar and Arab understanding. You need to stay in that pattern. Why? Because so your lamp won't go out during the day. You be a pillar of cloud by day. That means as rain and snow come down from Shamayim, so that the Barbie that goes on and on, you be like a cloud that's filled with rain, and you be watering. And then at night, guess what? Your pillar, the pillar at night will be lit. Your lamp at night won't ever go out. I mean, you always have something that can see you allow you to see in the dark. But guess what it says? Now, if you kill this people as one man, because that's what's going to happen. Now, I said, remember we talked about 2 become 1? If you kill this people as one man, then the nations will hear, who have heard of your fame will say. Because Yahuwah take people out. Because that's how the nations know him. Man, the nations know Yahuwah by earthquakes, storms, volcanoes, hurricanes, pestilence, disease. That's how they know Yahuwah by. Hey man, he got some weapons, man. We can't even do what he do. They will say, it is because Yahuwah was not able to bring this people into the land that he swore to give to them, and he has killed them in the wilderness. He's like, man, he said, I'll kill you. And now please let the power of Yahuwah be great as you have promised. Huh? Because the promise, he said, as you have promised. Saying, Yahuwah is slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love, forgiving sins, transgressions, and iniquities. And now you see why Yahushua was on totality, and he pierced in the side came blood and water. How is he going to forgive you? But will I by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquities on the fathers upon the children? Why do you think he visited all the sins of us on Yahushua Mashiach? For us the Son is given, and the government going to be upon his shoulders. For Elohim so loved the world, he gave his only Son, that all the sins may fall, iniquity of our fathers, and what we did may fall on him. To the 3rd and 4th generation. He said 3rd and 4th generation. He said why he went all the way to 4 generations. You look at it going from all the way from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. All the way to the 4th generation. Look at the 4th day of creation. He said all the way to the 4th day of creation. He said to the 4th generation. We talking about, what do you mean 4th generation? You talking about all the 12 tribes. All 4 gates. Please pardon the iniquity of this people, according to the greatness of your steadfast love, just as you have forgiven this people from Mizraim until now. He said you forgave them all the way to Mizraim up until now. Notice this is after 40 days. You go from Mizraim, we did that in the first month, right? 15th day of the first month, then you have a second Pesach in the second month, the 15th day. And he said, then ain't all through 40 days, and we still got 21 days left. But then you go all the way through, and he says, you've forgiven this people from Mizraim until now. Yahuwah has forgiven one from the time he rose, the time he appeared, and from waving the sheaf up until now. He has. Then Yahuwah said, I have pardoned according to your word. How many times? You see how Yahuwah is? Kafar. I have pardoned. I have pardoned. I forgive you. 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 But then guess what? But truly as I live, and as all the earth shall be filled with the kabod of Yahuwah, none of the men who have seen my kabod and my signs that I did in Mizraim and in the wilderness, and yet have put me to the test these 10 times. He's like, you know them 10 tribes? Those 10 heads that went up, that were running their mouth. I know you had 2 of them, but he said, you know them 10? He said, I don't want nothing to do with them. And have not obeyed my voice. They have not what? They ain't doing it. Shall see the land that I swore to give their fathers, and none of those who despise me shall see it. Now you see, this is the wrong person. Yahushua the wrong person to despise. He was despised and rejected by men. But my servant Caleb, because he had a different ruach and followed me fully. Now you see why. He said, why you doing the second Pesach? He said, man, that kind of different, ain't it? And we already did all. He like, why are they follow? Why they doing more? That makes no sense. I will bring him to the land in which he went, and his descendants shall possess it. He's like, why are you doing all that extra stuff? Why are you trying to act like you doing more? Why are you doing all that? That's crazy. Because you're supposed to do it for your descendants. And guess what? Now, since the Amalekites and the Canaanites dwell in the valley, turn tomorrow and set out for the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. Right, so this is the book of Acts. He says, so why is all this important, right? He says, so why is this important? Right, so this is the book of Acts, chapter 8. Acts chapter 8. Acts chapter 8 and verse 26. Acts chapter 8 and verse 26. Acts chapter 8 verse 26. Now a malach of Yahuwah said to Philip, right? So how you going to understand that? How you going to understand a malach of Yahuwah talking to you if you ain't in the Bakar and the Aydah sacrifice? How a malach going to be? Yeah, man, malach spoke to me for real. When? Now the malach of Yahuwah said to Philip, rise and go to the south to the road that goes from Jerusalem to Gaza, to Azza. He said the road that goes there. There is a desert place, right? He said there's a desert place. When they in the midbar of the desert, And he rose and went. So he left. He ain't hesitate. What type of Amunah he got? How much Amunah you got? He gone. And there was an Ethiopian, a eunuch of the court of the officials of Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, right? Because, women ruled over Ethiopia, right? It was all the way through, even with Sheba, right? That was a feminine ruling country, right? They ruled that stuff. Who was in charge of all her treasure, right? Her treasure, right? It was her money, right? She had a lot of money, right? He had come to Jerusalem to worship, and returning seated in his chariot, he was reading the Nabi Yeshayahu. He was reading Yeshayahu. What he said? The Ruach said to Philip, "Go over and join to this chariot." So Philip ran to him and heard him reading Yeshayahu the Nabi and asked, "Do you understand what you are reading?" Right. So the timeline had to be set. He had to get up. He had to meet. Basically, he had to be in alignment. Morning Bakar, evening sacrifices. He had to be in alignment with the Malachi. Then he had to go listen to the Malachi. And he got up immediately and ran, because if he didn't get up immediately, he would not be on the road that's going toward leaving Jerusalem, and he would not be able to meet him. And then when he finally met him, the Ruach said to him, "Go join yourself to the chariot." And then he ran. He ain't run slow. He ran. He had to hurry up. And heard him reading Yeshayahu the Nabi and asked, "Do you understand what you are reading?" He said, "Do you understand? You understand what you're reading?" And he said, "How can I unless someone guides me?" He said, "How are you going to do it if somebody guides me?" And guess what? Somebody got to guide you to this. And guess what happened? And he invited Philip to come and sit with him. He's like, "Man, come up here and show me what you're talking about." Now the passage of the scripture that he was reading was, like a sheep he was led to the slaughter, and like a lamb before his shear is silent, so he opened not his mouth. He did what? Why do you think Yahushua, when he was crucified, when he was brought to the elders, the chief priests, and the high Kahan, and they accused him, he gave him no answer. He was like a sheep going to the slaughter, bro. They were getting ready to slaughter an animal on the Pesach. He said, "Why you do it twice?" I'm trying to show you. We did it between 14 days in between the sons in the first month. And guess what? He opened out his mouth because he had to be dumb. He had to be a dumb animal because they couldn't speak anymore because of the transgression of Adam. Because when Adam transgressed, all the animals stopped talking. Matter of fact, they started communicating with human beings because of the vibrational frequency, and they went down to the lower self and they started slaughtering the animals for profit and gain. So therefore, everybody destroyed the earth and everything in it, and now look at the earth today. Just as ruthless as it was. So he said, "You know what? Just like they were silent and dumb, I'm going to go to the slaughter as well. Just quiet and stupid. And wondering why how man has gotten this way." In his humiliation, justice was denied him, right? Because this whole court case was just. Just like it was denied to Shoshana, just like it was denied to Nelba, just like it was denied to many others in the Torah. Why? Because his justice was taken away. And guess what? Who can describe his generation? When Isabel wanted Nabal's land, guess what? She set him up with false accusations and false witnesses and wrote false letters and false everything to set him up and be stoned. Who can describe his generation? For his life was taken away from the earth. He said it was taken away. His life was taken away from the earth. For dust thou art, and dust thou shalt return. He was taken away from the earth. His life was. And guess what? And the eunuch said to Philip, "About whom, I ask you, does the Nabi say this? About himself or about someone else?" He said, "Who are you talking about?" And guess what? And Philip opened his mouth, and beginning with this scripture, he told him the good news about Yahushua Mashiach. He's like, "Man, you know who this person is?" But guess what? And as they were going along the road, they came to some water. And the eunuch said, "See, here is water. What prevents me from being immersed?" He said, "What prevents me from being immersed?" And he commanded the chariot to stop. He said, "What's stopping me from being immersed?" I heard about this stuff, and I'm hearing about all these people talking about this Yahushua Mashiach, because after Chag Matzah, after Chag Shabuah, everybody was talking about it. He said, what's stopping me? And he commanded the chariot to stop, and they both went down into the water, Philip and the eunuch, and he immersed him. And guess what? And when they came out of the water, right? So Philip was in the water. The eunuch was in the water. The Ruach of Yahuwah carried Philip away, and the eunuch saw him no more. Now you talking about so after he got immersed and went into the water, when Philip was in there, he had a staff in his hand with the other person. Then after he got out of the water, he went on YouTube and started slandering and gossiping and lying on him, on the eunuch, how he wasn't a eunuch, and he started to make up lies and started to create some stuff on YouTube. He said he saw him no more. So why are people doing that? He said you're doing that to the very people who believe on Yahushua Mashiach, who are immersing his name. The very people who immerse you are doing that to the person they immersed. He said, man, he immersed me, but then I was a eunuch. He said, you know what, go be with a whore. You think that was the Ruach Kadash? No, that was Satan trying to destroy you. Right? Hypothetically. Right? You look at all that, right? And he says, and the eunuch saw him no more and went on his way rejoicing. He said, that's the only way. So the point of getting you understanding Yahushua is for the person to go on rejoicing, not to hear slander, gossip, lying, swindling, extorting. You trying to make the person look like they a deadbeat, make them look like they ain't nothing, make the woman look like she a hypocrite, a liar, doing all this stuff. The whole point is for people to get it and rejoice. Why? Because I understand it. It's not for people to do opposite of what Yahushua said. Because when you start doing that, then what happens? Then you're your father Satan, Shaitan. And this will be fulfilled, right? This is Shaul talking, right? This is the book of Galatians. I think that's it. Because it's all a part of it. This is the book. Yeah. So this is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 16 and verse 21. 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 21. I shall write this greeting with my own hand. He said, I wrote it. If anyone has no love for the master or Yahuwah, let him be accursed. Right? Right? If you're doing that after you immerse somebody and they come up with joy and you start rejoicing and then you go do some other stuff, guess what? He said, let you be accursed. Our master come, the Khan of Yahushua be with you. Well, he want people to still stay in that type of mindset. Because he's trying to show you it's supposed to stay in that mindset. For love, Ahaba, be with you all in Mashiach, Yahushua. Because that's what he said, I'm going to establish his throne with Ahaba and gentleness. That's what we read in the beginning. But if you do opposite, then you are your father Satan. That's the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. Then you've now become the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So you think that person rejoicing and full of joy should eat anything from your tree anymore? No! Because if they do, you're gonna be two-faced like you. Because that's called two-faced people. You're gonna be a two-faced individual. And then you're gonna be like, man, what happened to me? You'd be like, you know what happened to you? Because that's the whole point. This is the book of Galatians chapter 1 and 6. Galatians chapter 1 and 6. Galatians chapter 1 and 6. And I'm going to show you this. I am astonished that you are so quickly deserting him who called you into Khan of Mashiach and returning to a different truth. Why? Because that's what happened when they came and spied the land. Yahushua said, go spy the land, see if it's a good land. Flowing with milk and honey and everything like that. Bring the vine back. They did. And everybody was excited, but then they started saying some other things out of their mouth about the giants and Anak and the parasites, the Hivites, the Gergesites, the hill country, and the land that devours people. Then the other people started fainting. And they started saying some things they shouldn't say. Then Yahuwah like, well, how long these people going to despise me? Then they want to stone people and kill people and go back to Mizraim. He said, how long these people going to despise me? Guess what it says? A different truth. Not that there is another, but there are some who trouble you and want to distort the truth of Mashiach. And that's what they were doing. When they were going to the land, they were trying to distort what was in the people's mind. But even if we, right, so that you, we, that's Shalakim, right? That's your Shaul said, I'm the greatest of all Shalakim. I can lead other Shalakim. And then women too, and all this stuff. Even though we, so it don't matter who you are. Or a Malaki from Shamayim. So it don't matter if you're a Malaki from Shamayim, right? A super being. An unknown being that can shapeshift and transform himself into other men and beat people and do all these things, these feats. He says, teach or Qahalath to you a truth contrary to the one that we have preached to you, let him be accursed. So if they want to immerse you and you get out of the water and they start slandering and gossiping and lying and falsely accusing and doing all this evil stuff, when you get out of the water on YouTube and Instagram after they immerse you, and then now they saying all this other stuff about you, right? And you doing all these things. He said, let you be accursed. He said, let you be accursed. He said, man, the man done did it. I just got out of the water. I'm joyful and happy. He done slandered my whole lineage. He like, let him be accursed, right? You two-faced. These people two-faced, right? And you say, what? As we said before, now I say again, if anyone is teaching to you a truth contrary to the one you receive, let him be accursed. Now you see why Caleb and Yahusha, right? Now you see why Caleb and Yahusha were all about this stuff. Why? Because you got two witnesses. Every word be established. Because he had to get you. And that's the whole point. But guess what it said, verse 10? For I am now seeking the approval of men. Or am I now seeking the approval of men? Why? Because if I was seeking the approval of men, I'll just sign off on what people do. And I'll be like, yeah, you know, you can slander, gossip, lie, even though you immerse people and you done told them about Yahushua Mashiach. You can slander, gossip, lie, falsely accuse, swindle, extort, say you're a part of my play, and then you can do all that stuff. I'll be trying to please people, because then I'll be like you. I'll be like those people in the middle of the wilderness who did all those things and started wanting to stone people and go out to Mizraim and listening to the other 10 heads, and I'll be like them. Am I now seeking the approval of man or of Elohim? Or am I trying to please man? Because if you do that, you're going to mess up. Because you know man ain't never satisfied. Especially if they God is their belly. Ooh, you ain't never going to satisfy them. That thing infinite. Man, how many, it'll never go away. If I were still trying to please man, I will not be a servant of Mashiach Yahusha. Now you see why you don't want to follow that stuff. Right? It's important, right? Going back to Numbers chapter 14. People say, "Wow, it's important, man." Numbers chapter 14. Numbers, the Midbar, chapter 14 and verse 18. Yahuwah is slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love, forgiving iniquity, transgressions, but by no means clear the guilty. If I would please man or Elohim. So you think about that. Male and female. That's man and woman. You need to think about that. So who you trying to please? You going to sign off on what they do? You want to do all that stuff? You go ahead and you do what you want to. And you know what happens to you? You ain't like Yahuwah. He ain't clearing no guilty people now. Visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation. So you think about that. Please, he said, that's what Yahuwah said. Verse 19 says, please pardon the iniquity of this people according to your greatness of your love, just as you have forgiven this people from Mizraim until now. Mashah was like, please. But guess what he said? Then Yahuwah said, I have pardoned according to your word. Because Yahuwah will forgive you. He'd be like, man, I forgive you. I forgive you for all the stuff you did. But guess what happens? But truly, as I live, as all the earth shall be filled with kabod Yahuwah, none of the men that you have seen my kabod signs that I did to Mizraim in the wilderness, and yet have put me to the test these 10 times, and have not obeyed my voice, shall see the land that I swore to give to their fathers, and none of those who despise me shall see it, but my servant Caleb. Now you see why I said, if I yet please men, I will not be a servant of Yahushua Mashiach. Because he has a different ruach and has followed me fully. He's like, man, he's still going. And I will bring him into the land to which he went. And he and his descendants shall possess it. Now, since the Amalekites and the Canaanites dwell in the valley, turn tomorrow and set out for the wilderness by the Red Sea. And Yahuwah spoke to Mashah to Aharon, saying, how long shall this wicked congregation grumble against me? Bunch of loons. I have heard the grumbling of the people of Yasharal, which they grumble against me. Say to them, as I live, declares Yahuwah, what you have said in my hearing, I will do to you. Huh? He said, what you said in my hearing, I'm going to do to you. So now you see why you don't want to immerse nobody in Yahushua's name, tell them about Yahushua and immerse them, and you're going to do other things that you ain't supposed to do. And say things about things and create things and slander and gossip and lie and swindle and extort and do all these things. And do all this other evil stuff that people do. Rumors and evil rumors and narratives, right? All these things, you don't want to do it. I'm telling you. He said, I heard it all. And they have grumbled against me. Say to them, as I live, declares Yahuwah, what you have said in my hearing, I will do to you. So everything they said, your dead bodies shall fall in the wilderness. Uh-oh. Remember, what did they want to do to Caleb and Joshua? They wanted to kill him. They wanted to stone Yahuwah. So Caleb and Yahushua was Yahuwah. He like, yeah. Because they had the same mindset as I did. It was just like they were my sons. He said, you know what you try to do to the sons? You was doing it to me. That's why he says, he that dishonors the son, dishonors the father. Who either honors the son, father, dishonors the son. So he like, so you want to kill Caleb and Yahushua, right? You want to stone them? Okay, so being that you wanted to stone Louis, the tribe of Louis from the Louis, and the one from Yehuda, who did that, I'm going your dead bodies. Since you want to stone and go back to Mizraim and worship Pharaoh and Isis and Tahuti and Hathor and Osiris and Thoth. Since you want to go back under them, because they give you all the food you want, right? Everything you need, right? Here I am, I'm showing you something way better than that. And you say, no, I don't want it. And you right there looking at it. After 40 days, and I'm just looking at it. And then you don't want it? He lied. He said, your dead bodies shall fall in the wilderness, and all your numbers listed in the census from 20 years old and upward. So Yahuwah I don't want nobody from 20 years old. I want 19 and down. So that means that's how Yahuwah be thinking. He's like 19 and down. The 19-year-olds really got to understand like the 20-year-old, because 20-year-olds go up, and they're the ones get registered. Like we talked about in Numbers 9, they all register from 20 years old and up to go to war. So being that you 20 years old and up didn't want to go to war, you didn't want to go take down the giants, you didn't want to get the land, and you didn't want to do it. So therefore, Caleb and Yahushua are going to be the commanders of the 19-year-olds and down. And then Mashah and Aharon going to still leave, but I ain't going to let them in either, because I just said it's only Caleb and Yahushua going to get in, because Mashah and Aaron in the future going to do something they ain't going to get in. So I'm going to use them. And then from 20 years old and upward, who have grumbled against me, not one shall come into the land where I swore that I will make you dwell, except Caleb and the son of Yefuneh and Yahushua the son of Nun. So now you see why you need to be quiet. Now you see why it says in Galatians, it talks about the fruit you bear, the works of the flesh. He like, you will not inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah or Yahushua Mashiach. I can't let you in. But your little ones, now you see where I get to humble yourself like a child. You got to become like a child again. Remember where you have fallen and repent and become like a child again. But your little ones, whom you said will become a prey, I will bring them in. He's like, man, you leave, you're going to die. Something going to happen to you, man. You're going to go out there, it's crazy out there. They're going to take you out. You're going outside the camp. Something going to happen to you. You know, your little ones that you thought was a prey. Oh my gosh. You're going into a trial. You sure you want to do that? We was only trying to protect you. You know how they say. And they know, and they shall know it says, and they shall know the land that you have rejected. Now you see why Yahushua said he was despised and rejected by men. Now you think he's showing you everybody all this stuff. He said they're going to know Yahushua Mashiach. Because you think about, he was in between two thieves. What actually, when you have two men carrying a vine, where did he get the vine from? A branch. He said, I'm the vine, you are the what? The branches. Where do you think the grape came from? From the branch. Why do you think he was in the middle of them? Why do you think they were walking with it? He said, man, you cut that whole branch off? He's like, yeah, that's him right there. And guess what? But your little ones, whom you said will become a prey, I will bring in, and they shall know the land that you have rejected. They're going to know the truth, and the truth going to make them free. And guess what? But as for you, your dead body shall fall in this wilderness, in Midbar. He said, your dead body is going to fall. And your children shall be shepherds. Your what? Man, I'm a grown person, man. I've been doing this thing for 50 years, 20 years. He said, your children shall be shepherds. He said, your children going to be shepherds. Man, who will be like? So what you done did? And guess what he said? Your children will be shepherds in the wilderness 40 years and shall suffer for your faithlessness. The reproaches of them that reproach you, Yahuwah, it fell on me. The iniquity of the fathers fall upon the children. And they're going to suffer for all the evil that the fathers did and while they're shepherds. That's what happens. Until the last of your dead bodies lies in the wilderness, until you all die off. That's literally what he's saying. Until you all die off, then they ain't going to have to suffer no more. But as long as you're still alive, because you know you ain't got no mind to obey Yahuwah's voice anyway, because you already rejected him anyway. So, being that you're still alive, the children going to have to suffer, even though they shepherds, right now in the wilderness. They're going to have to suffer for all the stuff you did, because you still here. Ain't that something? And you say, man, you know, they'd be like, I don't want to change. I don't want to come to the Torah. I don't want to keep the commandments. I don't want to humble myself like a child and be under a child to shepherd me. And that's the problem. Because you're going to need somebody to carry you in your old age to the place where you need to go. And you know what that is? To New Jerusalem. That's why the old people don't want it. That's why they older. They don't want it. Man, you don't want to humble yourself like a child, because then you're going to have to be shepherded by a child. Children gonna shepherd me. I ain't even let no children shepherd me, but that's the whole point of it. You gotta humble yourself like a child and be like a child so they can shepherd you back and get you in. That's the way you're gonna get in. Or you're just gonna die in your sin. I know it sounds crazy, but until the last of your dead bodies lie in the wilderness, according to the number of the days in which you spied out the land for 40 days. Now you see why Yahushua was here for 40 days. A year for each day. Now you see why you don't want to say nothing out of your mouth during this time. He's like, man, let me shut up. You know how many days Yahushua was here? For 40 days? I don't think you want to say nothing out of your mouth. Just be quiet. Don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. You shall bear your iniquity 40 years, and you shall know my displeasure. I, Yahuwah, have spoken. Surely this will I do to all this wicked congregation who gathered together against me in this wilderness, Midbar. They shall come to a full end where they shall die. Now you see why. Romans chapter 1. Romans chapter 1 in verse, people say what? People have no idea. Romans chapter 1 in verse 26. He said, what do you mean by that? You're going to die. This is what he mean by this. Romans chapter 1 verse 26. Why he say all that? For this reason, Elohim gave them up to dishonorable passions. This is why he said you're going to die. Because he put you in this state. He gave you up. What do you think? He just said you're going to die. Which means he just gave you up to whatever going to happen to you. He don't care. For their women exchange the natural relations for those that are contrary to nature. And their men likewise gave up natural relations with women and were consumed in their passions for one another. He said, man, they went all in women with women. And guess what? Men committing shameless acts with men. He said, this is what he mean by your dead bodies going to play in the wilderness. He said, to all you gone, he said, children going to shepherd you. Children going to be shepherds, and they going to bear the sin of your faithlessness, right? Receiving in themselves the due penalty of their error. What's that? Sodom and Gomorrah, burn you up. And since they did not see fit to acknowledge Elohim, Elohim gave them up to debased mind, to do what they ought not to be done. They were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covetous, malice. They were full of envy, murder, and they wanted to kill Caleb and all them. They want to do that. Strife. You know they doing that? Deceit, maliciousness. They are gossips. This is what you want to do to people when they get out of the water. I want to immerse your people. And then Yahuwah said, gossips. You are a slanderer. You are a hater of Elohim, insolent, haughty. You get about, you start doing that. Boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, foolish, faithless. Why do you think they ain't listening to Yahuwah's voice? Yahuwah's like, you disobedient to parent. I'm the father. Foolish, faithless, heartless, ruthless. Though they know Elohim's righteous decree, they knew it too. Remember they did? They recited it to him. It's just like he said. And those who practice such things deserve to die. Now you see why? These are all a part of what? He said you deserve to die. But guess what? They not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them. Now you see why Shaul said, if I be a servant of Mashiach, I ain't here to please nobody. I ain't here to please man. If I'm here to please man, I'll just sign off on all that. I'll please man, right? I'll please human beings. But I'm not. Because if you approve it, you're just as guilty as practicing it. You'll be a two-faced individual, like we read in the Testament of Asher. And the whole thing will be evil. Even though you got good fruit on your tree, that evil going to outweigh that good. And you're going to look at your tree as a knowledge of good and evil. And that's a forbidden tree to eat from. Right, so this is going back to the Aquarian. We almost finished. The Aquarian, chapter 105. The Aquarian of Yahushua Mashiach, chapter 105 and 40. Chapter 105 and 40. I think that's it, yeah. 105 and 37. 105 and 37. Then will the Kudash breath again breathe on the fires of life and to fan them to the living flame. Then she will open up the doors again, and you may let her in to sup with you forevermore. So what is he talking about? And guess what? Or you may slight her once again and then again. You men of Yasharal, your opportunity is now. Say what? Today is the day of salvation. He said, your opportunity is now. Your tree of life is an elusive tree. It has a generous crop of leaves. Its boughs hang low with fruit. And then what they brought out of that land? They brought that whole vine out of there between two thieves, right? And you know what happens? Behold, for men have plucked the apples of your tree of life and found them full of bitterness. Now you see why. Bitterness and worms have eaten the core. Behold, the fig tree by the way, so full of leaves and worthless fruit. He said, man, it's just worthless. He said, your opportunity is now. It's all worthless. Then Yahushua spoke a word that nature spirits know. And lo, the fig tree stood a mass of withered leaves. And then he spoke again, behold, for Elohim will speak the debar, and you will stand a withered fig tree in the setting sun. You men of Galilee, send forth and call the pruner in before it is too late. He's like, man, you trying to prune that thing. Why do you think Yahushua was here for 40 days? Why do you think he had a second Pesach? He was trying to get everybody, all this stuff pruning and trying to get people to the point to where they need to be. Why? Before it's too late. And guess what happens? You know what happens after that? And he spoke again, behold, Elohim will speak a word, and you will stand as a withered fig tree in the setting sun. You men of Galilee, send forth and call the pruner in before it is too late, and let him prune away your worthless branches. And what else? And elusive leaves, and let the sun shine in. Because you blocking the sun. He said, man, you gotta let the sun shine in, man. I gotta cut some of this stuff down. And you know what happens? The sun is life, and it can change your worthless to worth. Because you were worthless. He said you worthless, but he said, nah, I change you to worth. He said, why? That's why you think Yahushua died. Why he was here for 40 days? Because none of those people in the wilderness were able to get in. But he said, if you humble yourself like a child and become like a little one and be retrained, guess what? And you start to understand Yahushua Mashiach and who he is, then guess what happens? Today is the day of salvation. And guess what? Your tree of life is good, but you have nurtured it so long with dews of self and mist of carnal things that you have shut the sunshine out. He said, your carnal things. He said, you shut the sunshine out because you're pursuing carnal stuff. And guess what? I tell you men, you must give account to Elohim for every idle word you speak and every evil deed you do. Now you see why one has to give an account. So how you gonna do that? You say you're gonna give an account. Right, this is Proverbs, Mashli 27 and 18. Proverbs, Mashli 27 and 18. Whosoever tends a fig tree will eat its fruit. If you don't, you ain't gonna let the sun shine in. And he who guards or shamar his master will be honored. He said, you have to guard these things inside of you, because if you eat from something that you ain't supposed to eat from, there's nothing, you're going to take on that behavior and you're going to be corrupted and poisoned, and you're going to follow that. Guess what? That word for tend is netzar, to watch, to guard, to keep, to preserve, to guard from dangers. To keep, observe, guard. To blockade, to guard, to protect, to maintain it. That's the only way you're going to do it. You got to maintain this. If you don't maintain it, you know what's going to happen to you. Hidden things, you know, all them branches and fruit you can't hide it. You can't conceal it. Like we read in the Testament of Asher, they're concealing the evil, but they do good though. And these are the things that produces no Amunah. Proverbs 13, 1 through 6. A wise son hears his father's instructions, or daughter, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. You know why? Because they ain't going to listen to it. That's not me. That's not talking about me. That has nothing to do with me, right? Close that ear, man. I don't know what you're talking about, man. I got all good fruit. From the fruit of his mouth, a man eats what is good. So whatever you say, that's what you're going to eat. So why do you think the men came out of the spotted land? Or they were saying things about it, and they ate what they said. And then other people ate what they said, what they eat. And then they started wanting to kill people, want to stone people, because they want to go back to Mizraim and be safe. I want to be safe. I don't want to be out here no Nephilim, no giants and the land that devours people. Man, you know what type of animals? See, that's the thing. Today they killed all the animals, so you won't never see the animals that they were afraid of. All the things that they were talking about, devour the land, all the things that you don't want to see. You ain't no tigers with leopards and cougars all at one place. You ever seen that at? And lions and grizzly bears and black bears and grizzly bears dwelling with each other. They don't want you to see that. You start thinking this stuff real. Giant trees and giant vines with grapes on it. You'll start thinking the Torah real. That's why I think they destroyed it all. Why do you think the demons and Shadim and Nephilim destroyed it all? Why? Because they don't want you to think it real. Because they got a foothold on you. If you reveal all this stuff, think about it. Man, there are woolly mammoths and elephants at the same time with all the other animals, right? The woolly rhino with the bear rhino with no hair, right? The leprous elephant and the leprous elephant and the leprous elephant and the leprous rhino, right? They don't want you to see that. You know why they don't want you to see that? They don't want you to think about these flying reptiles, right? Why do you think they killed them all? Why do you think you found all the bones everywhere? Because he said, from the fruit of his mouth, a man eats what is good. That's what you're going to eat. But the desire of the treacherous is violence. That's what happens. Why do you think it happened? The desire of the treacherous. They ate what was from the people's mouth, and then the people wanted to stone them. They wanted to stone them. Whosoever netzar his mouth preserves his life. Now you see why them people 20 years old and up, they will never see the land. And they're going to bear your sin. Your children going to become shepherds. They're going to bear your iniquity. They got to deal with all your foolishness until you all die. And that's what you see today. That's exactly what you see today. They got to deal with all y'all foolishness because everybody want to go back to Mizraim, want to destroy relationships, marriages, want to do all this crazy stuff, want to go back. He said, go back. Guess what the person got to do that when the people go back? I got to bear all your sin and everything that people do. The iniquity of the fathers fall upon the children. Everybody got to bear all the sin, but you're going to be, he said, you be shepherding though, but you still got to bear all their sin though. Whosoever netzar his mouth preserves his life, and he who opens wide his lips comes to ruin. Now you see why you want to be careful. Why you would say, I heard all the words you said about me. And all the things you said that you were going to do. You going to stone somebody? He said, that's going to be you. The soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. Why? Richly supplied with what? Binah Hamada'ah, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, the debar. The righteous hates falsehood. They hate shakir, two-faced. When you start being two-faced, the righteous get little antsy. They started, hold up. I ain't here to please man, right? But the wicked bring shame and disgrace. He said, I'm not here to please nobody. Righteousness, netzar, or tends to him whose way is blameless. That's what it does. You stay steadfast, you stay unmovable. We will let it take this. Right? It's the same thing. It's like a woman with children. It's like, I can't do this anymore. This is crazy. Yahuwah, I'm going back to Mizraim. And you know what happens after that? Yahuwah like, so you going back to Mizraim, so you think it's because it's hard now. Because of the way the world is and everything and all these things. So you haven't really read the Torah, like with Yahoo, with the woman, with the child, and the month, and a little bit of thing. You don't got no Amunah like that to where I can rejuvenate things and make things happen out of nowhere. Then you'll really see my voice. If you have Amunah, you'll really see me. But until you get to that point where you crying and weeping, that's the point where you need to be quiet even more and to really think about what Yahuwah can do. Those times where he answered people in those situations. Not to get all faint-hearted. Because Yahuwah going to hear what you said. He be like, man, that person ain't got no Amunah. And you know what's going to happen you don't need to do? This is what you're going to need. We almost finished. This is the book of... This is Peter. 2 Peter. 2 Peter chapter 1 and verse 13. This is what you're going to need. When you get that type mindset, this is what you're going to need. 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 13. I think it right, as long as I am in the body, to stir you up by way of remembrance. I got to get you a car. I got to get you to remind you. Since I now am putting off my body and will soon be. Right? He said, I got to stir you up by way of reminder. As our master Yahushua Mashiach made it clear to me. And I will make every effort so that after my departure, you may be able anytime to recall these things. You got to keep these things in memory. Recall what? Verse 16. For we did not follow cleverly devised myths when we made known to you the power of the coming of Mashiach Yahusha, but we were eyewitnesses of his majesty. He's like, man, we saw it. Didn't they see all the signs too? They saw it too in the wilderness, in Midbar, when they went to spy the land. He received honor and kabod from Elohim the Father, and the voice was borne to him by the majestic kabod. This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. We ourselves heard the voice born from Shamayim. And you know what happened with the people in the wilderness? What did they say? How long will these people not obey my voice? How long will these people not listen to my voice? They heard the voice. He said, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. We actually saw Yahushua say, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. We ourselves heard this very voice born from Shamayim, and we were with him on the Qahalath mountain. And we have the prophetic word more fully confirmed, to which you will do well if you pay attention as a lamp shining in a dark place, until the day dawn. And what? The day dawns and the morning star rise in your heart, until you cut them figs off your tree, till you cut them branches off and the sunlight come in. Until it arise, till you become a woman in the ordering of her house. Till it rises in your heart. Till you be like a man ruling over men, it'd be like a sun rising on a cloudless day. Till the day dawn and until it rises in your heart. Until you get up in the morning before the sun rises, and you be out for the morning sacrificing and cohabitate with all the creation. You see all the insectoids and everything paying attention and rejoicing, and you be hearing the birds too. Matter of fact, you be seeing the insectoids standing up, watching the sun rise. You be seeing everything. You be like, why is everything outside doing all this stuff in the morning time before the sun rises? Why the rooster crowing? What is this crazy? You notice that, right? And then people say, they more conscious than you. They've been doing this for thousands of years. You, sporadically. And these are all a part of your Amunah, right? It says, knowing this, that first of all, no Naba of the scripture comes from someone's own interpretation. For the Naba was ever produced by the will of man, but men spoke from Elohim as they were carried along by the Qahalath Ruach. That's the whole point, but we're going to go through that again. This is Mostly Proverbs 13:4. The soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. The righteous hates falsehood, but the wicked brings shame and disgrace. Righteousness tends to him whose way is blameless, but sin overthrows the wicked. It does. This is Mark chapter 13. Mark chapter 13, 24 through 31. But in those days, after the tribulation, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will be falling from Shamayim, and the power of the Shamayim will be shaken. And then you will see the sign of the son of Adam coming in the clouds with great power and kabod, and then he will send out his malakim to gather his elect from the four winds, from the ends of the earth to the ends of the earth to the ends of Shamayim. So they're going to gather from the ends of the earth to the ends of the Shamayim. From the fig tree, learn this lesson, right? What do you mean? As soon as the branches become tender, it puts out its leaves. You know that summer is near. So you already know that. So also, when you see these things take place, you know that he is nearing at the very gates. Why? Because if you don't know what a fig tree look like, you don't know when the leaves sprout, you don't know seasonal cycles, you ain't up when the sun rises. Matter of fact, you ain't even looking outside when it rains, because that's when the leaves start to sprout on the trees. And then he says, truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until this takes place. What do you mean, this generation will not pass away until this takes place? Because what happened in the wilderness? What happened in Midbar? What did Yahuwah say about those who were 20 and up? He said that none of these people, he said, they're going to have to bear, the children are going to have to bear your sin because of your faithlessness. And then until all your dead bodies are on the ground. That's literally what he said. That's what the fig tree means. He said, it's at the very gates. He said, it's almost over. Because all these people, he said, the sun going to be darkened, which means the moon ain't going to be clothed with the sun, which means they ain't going to hear nothing Yahuwah say, right? Then the stars, he said, the moon not going to get no light. They ain't have no instructions. And then the stars, all the stars going to fall from Shamayim. Everybody going to die. And the power of Shamayim going to be shaken. And all these things going to happen. He said, truly, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Why? Because all those people had to die off. In order for the children to become shepherds. And once the children became shepherds, then they had to, the generation had to die off in order for them to go forward with Caleb and Yahusha as the helm, as the people, the ones that were over them. That's why he did that. But what does it got to do with anything? This Luke 13, Luke 13, 6 through 8. And he told this parable, a man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard. And he came seeking fruit on it and found none. Why? Because he ain't tended to his fig tree. Nitzar. It's a feminine nature. It's a feminine tree. That's why he tried to establish on the throne. He wanted to establish on the throne ahava and gentleness. Because it's a feminine type of tree. Not a feminine man, but it has a certain characteristic that comes with him. Not just what you see today. It's more based upon, I'm forgiving, I'm kind, I'm loving, but at the same time, I don't clear the guilty. I'll give you mercy. I'll let you live for 40 more years. But after that, I had to get rid of all y'all. But that's still kindness. And he said to the vine dresser, look, for 3 years, now I am seeking fruit on this tree. And I find none. I don't find nothing to eat. Cut it down. Why should it use up the ground? And he answered him, sir, let it alone for this year also, until I dig around it and put on manure, because he got to do it. Let me do it. Then it shall bear fruit next year, well and good. But if not, you can cut it down. Right? So this is the first book of Adam and Kawur. First book of Adam and Kawur, chapter 10. Chapter 10, this page 18, chapter 10, chapter X, chapter 10, verse 10 and 5. 10 and 5. And it says, then Elohim said to Adam, while you were under my command, you were a bright malach. You did not experience this water. But now that you have transgressed my commandment, you can not do without water to wash your body and make it grow. He said you need all these things to make it grow. For it is now like the beast and is in want of water. Why? When Adam and Kawur heard these words from Elohim, they cried with a bitter cry. And Adam entreated Elohim, let him return into the Gan. It says, and Adam entreated Elohim, let him return into the garden, Gan, and look at it a second time. He said, let me look at that thing a second time. Why do you think you had a second Pesach? He said, let me look at the thing a second time. I know I did it the first time, but let me look at it one more time. And guess what? But Elohim said to him, Adam, I have made you a promise. Okay. When that promise is fulfilled, I will bring you back to the garden, you and your righteous descendants. Say what? What was the promise? And guess what? He said, when I fulfilled it, right? So this is the book of, he said, so why is he saying this? Everything happens for a reason, right? This is Yukonon chapter 1. John chapter 1. Actually, go to Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6, or Matthew chapter 5, and verse 1. Matthew chapter 5, verse 1. Matthew chapter 5, verse 1. Seeing the crowds, he went up to the mountain, and when he had sat down, his disciples came to him. And he opened his mouth, and he taught them, saying, Barak is the poor in Ruach, for theirs is the kingdom of Shamayim. So as rain and snow come down from Shamayim, so does the Barbie that goes out of my mouth. He said, man, you, for some reason, you need this water. I'm like, man, nah, I need water all the time. He's like, yeah. He said, that's the only way you're going to wash your body and grow. That's the only way. Barak are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Barak are the Aydah, the meek, for they shall inherit the Aydahs. Barak are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, because it tends to the fig tree. Netzar. And amazingly, he said, you thirsty. Because you know why? Adam ain't see it as Barak. He's like, I'm thirsty. I never had to deal with this water. This is something I never had to deal with. But not even knowing, it was Barak for him to be thirsty. He said, Barak will hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. That's the reason why. It wasn't a Barak for him to have to depend on water. I'm like beast now. I need water all the time, but not even knowing it was a Barak for you. You said, it's a Barak to be thirsty? Yeah. Because what happens when you're thirsty? What happens when a flower, an everlasting flower, is thirsty? It dries up, but for some reason, it still keeps its color though. And then when it keeps its color, he said, you know, I got some water right here. I got some water. You can plant it back in the ground. You know what happens to the flower? It inflates. Barak are the merciful, for you shall find mercy. Barak are the pure in heart, for they shall see Elohim. What happens? Verse 9. Barak are the peacemakers. Shalom, make shalom. For they shall be called the sons of Elohim. Right? He says, so why is that important? Get what he says. Going back to the second book of Adam 10 and 8. But Elohim said to Adam, I made you a promise. When that promise is fulfilled, I will bring you back into the garden, you and your righteous descendants. And Elohim ceased to commune with Adam. What do you mean by that? Because he said, I'm going to bring you back. Like going to this same book, going to, what page you on? Yeah, going to chapter 9. Going to chapter 9. Going to chapter 9 and verse 1. That's XI. And it says, then Adam and Qahalath came out of the cave of treasures and came near the garden gate. And they stood and looked at it and cried for having gone away from it. And Adam and Qahalath went to the south of the gate on the side of it, and found there water that watered the garden, which came from the root of the tree of life. He's like, this thing came from the very roots of the tree of life. He said, man, it's like the roots that came from the tree of life. And guess what? And they saw that the water was split from there into 4 rivers over the earth. He said, man, it's like water that sprung up. It was split into 4 rivers over all the earth. Then they came near to the water and looked at it and saw that it was the water that came up from under the root of the tree of life of the garden. All right, so this is the book of This is the book of John. This is the book of John. The book of Yochanan. The book of Yochanan. The book of Yochanan chapter 3. Actually, the book of Yochanan chapter 7, verse 37. The book of Yochanan chapter 7, verse 37. And on the last day of the feast, the great day, Yahushua stood and cried out, "If anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink." He said, "Why am I depending on this water? Whosoever believes on me, as the scripture said, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water." It's like the rivers that flow from the Garden of Eden. It's like the roots that come from the water from the Garden of Eden. Matter of fact, it's like water that flows from the 4 rivers. And guess what it says? Now this he said about the Ruach, whom those who believed in him were to receive. For as yet the Ruach had not yet been given, because Yahusha had not yet been kabod. He said he ain't never been glorified. He ain't had no kabod. But all this is a part of it. So why is this important? Right? So this is the book of... This is the book of... Same book. Going over to... Going over to... Looking for this... This book of... First book of Adam and Qahalath, chapter 6 and verse 1. Page 14. Second book of Aydah, chapter 6, verse 1. But Elohim looked at them, for they killed themselves through great grief. And he decided to raise them and comfort them. Didn't we read that? We read that. Right, so this is the book of... We read that. He said... This is Yeshayahu chapter 40 and 1. Yeshayahu 40 and 1. Comfort my people, says Yahuwah Elohim. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and cry to her that her warfare is ended and her iniquity is pardoned. That's why he said, when I fulfill everything, I'm going to bring you back to the garden. And her iniquity is pardoned, that she has received from Yahuwah's hand double for all her sins. Why do you think he had 2 Passats? Get what it says. A voice cries in the wilderness, prepare the way of Yahuwah, make straight in the desert a highway for our Elohim. Right, going back to first book of Adam and Qahalath, chapter 6, verse 1. But Elohim looked at them and that they had killed themselves through great grief, and he decided to raise them and comfort them. Therefore he sent his debar to them that they should stand and be raised immediately. And Yahuwah said to Adam and Qahalath, you transgressed your own free will until you came out of the Gan in which I have placed you. Of your own free will have you transgressed through your desire in divinity, greatness, and an exalted state, such as I have. Therefore I deprived you of the bright nature which you had then, and I made you come into the Gan, to this land rough and troubled. If only you had not transgressed my commandment and kept my law, and have not eaten of the tree from which I told you not to come near. And there were fruit trees in the Gan better than that one. Man, there are fruit trees better than the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right? With all that evil and good in it, and they try to sway you to eat from it, but it still got all that evil fruit in it. But the wicked Satan did not keep his Amunah. Why? That's the reason why. Because you are your father Satan. Because that's why you got that tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's why you a two-faced individual. He said, but Shaitan, the wicked Shaitan, did not keep his Amunah. See, that's why you need to keep your faith. Because when you don't keep your Amunah, then you fall from Yahuwah, and then that becoming the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But Satan did not keep his Amunah. That's why he tried to drive you from one Amunah and try to bring errors and doubts in your mind. And that's why when you try to believe in one Elohim, and then he try to get you to believe in other things. And guess what? But the wicked Shaitan did not keep his Amunah and had no intent towards me. He's like, and although I created him, he considered me to be useless. And he sought the Elohim, he sought the headship for himself. That's what he did. He said, you started for himself without me. For I hurled him down from Shamayim so that he could not remain in his first estate. He said, I hurled him down. It was he who made the tree appear pleasant to your eyes. See, you got that good fruit, make it look all nice and good. Until you ate of it by believing his words. That's what happened to them in the wilderness. What did they do? They believed the words of the 10 other heads, the headship, and then the other people got poisoned. And then they want to go back to Mizraim, to Satan, Shaitan, And then they wanted to stone Caleb and Yahushua because they didn't. And they wanted to stone them because they didn't want to listen to their voice. Because they didn't want to hearken to their words. And they didn't want to be persuaded by a bunch of people. And, the enemy comes in like a flood. The Ruach of Yahuwah lifted up a standard against them. And they wanted to destroy them with stones. Right? Those 10 chosen stones, how you say, right? And it was he who made the tree appear pleasant to your eyes until you ate of it by believing his words. Thus you have transgressed my commandment, and therefore I have brought you all to these sorrows. Now you see why he said the children are going to become shepherds, and they're going to bear the sins of your faithlessness. For I am the Elohim, the creator, who, when I created my creatures, did not intend to destroy them. But after they had greatly aroused my anger, I punished them with grievous plagues until they repent. That's the whole point. But if, on the contrary, they still continue hardened in their heart and their transgressions, they shall be under the curse forever. So how long, if you say, how long people want to be on, he said you would be under it forever. So you think about that. People say, I want to be under the curse forever. I want to be under the curse forever, right? So going back to in the same book, there's one more thing I want to see, right? Right, so this is the same book. Why you visit that tree? Where is that? The comfort room. All right, so it's the same book, chapter 5 of that same book, chapter 5 and verse. Actually, go to chapter 3. Chapter 3 of first book of Adam and Qahalath, chapter 3 and verse 7. But before that, Elohim made this covenant with our father Adam in the same terms before he came out of the garden when he was by the tree where Qahalath took the fruit and gave it to him to eat. Because when our father Adam came out of the garden, he passed by that tree and saw how Elohim changed the appearance of it into another form. He did what? He changed it into another form. And how he did, it had shriveled. Why? Because it was a knowledge of the tree of good and evil. And you see why the two-faced individual, you notice how he said your dead body is going to be in the wilderness? Because it's the knowledge of good and evil. It has evil fruit and good fruit on it. And he said, I'm going to separate the fruit, but he's like, no, I got to destroy the whole tree. Right, your tree cursed. He said it's shriveled. And as Adam went in, he feared, trembled, and fell down. But Elohim in his mercy lifted him up, then made this covenant with him. Also, when Adam was by the gate, the garden, he saw the cherub and the sword flashing fire in his hand. And the cherub grew angry and frowned at him. But both Adam and Qahalath became afraid, and the cherub, and thought he meant to put them to death. So they fell on their faces, trembling with fear, but he had pity on them and showed mercy. And turning from them, he went up to Shamayim and prayed to Yahuwah and said, Yahuwah, you sent me to watch the gate of the gun with the sword on fire. But when your servants, Adam and Qahalath, saw me, they fell on their faces and were dead. Oh, my master, what shall we do with you to your servants? Then Elohim had pity on them and showed them mercy, and sent his Malachim to keep the gun. And the word of Yahuwah came to Adam and Qahalath and raised them up. And Yahuwah said to Adam, I told you that at the end of the 5.5 days I will send my word to save you. Therefore strengthen your heart and stay in the cave of treasures, of which I have spoken to you before. And when Adam heard his word, the word of Yahuwah from Elohim, he was comforted, with which Elohim had told him, for he had told him how he would save him. That's why he said, stay here in Jerusalem till you receive power from on high. Why do you think he told him to stay in Jerusalem? He said, you saw what I did to that fig tree? He said, you saw what I did to it? He said, I destroyed that tree. This is the book of Qahalath, Ecclesiastes chapter 9, 16 through 18. But I say that wisdom is better than might. Though a poor man's wisdom is despised, his words are not heard. The words of the wise are inquired, are better than the shouting of a ruler among fools. Wisdom, Hakmah, is better than weapons of war. But one sinner destroys much good. You think about all that. They had 10. And then they had all the people. And then they destroyed the whole inheritance. They supposed to got it in 40 days. You see what Yahushua was trying to do? Yahushua trying to get us to get it in 40 days. Not 40 years. That's why I say 40 days. Not 40 years. So you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you, and you will have 40 years of the year for each day. And that's how serious it is, right? That word for quiet is in the car. Wisdom heard in quiet or in the car is better. Because he said can we just read in the first book of Adam, he said, were there not any other trees in the garden better than these? Because you eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He like, were there not any other trees better in chapter 10, chapter 9, better than these trees that you ate from? The words of the wise heard in quiet are better than the shouting of rulers among fools. This is quiet attitude. A descent, a unfavorable restfulness, lighting down, quiet. He said, were there not any trees better than these? That's the whole point. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 3, 10 through 19. According to the con that Yahuwah has given me, like a skilled master builder, I laid the foundation, and someone else is building upon it. Let each one of you take how you build upon it. For no one can lay a foundation other than that which is laid, which is Yahushua Mashiach. You can't put nothing else on it. Now, if anyone builds on the foundation, gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw, each one's work will be manifest, for that day will disclose it. Now you see, while all them people, they Amunah, that day disclosed everybody's heart. And you see Caleb, Yahushua, heart. It's going to disclose it because it will be revealed by fire, by the words, to the bar. And the fire will test what sort of work each one has done. So I can see y'all. If the work that anyone has built on the foundation survives, he will receive a reward. That's why he said all them people dead bodies are gonna be on the ground, and the descendants, the children, are gonna be the shepherds. He said all these things are gonna happen for 40 years until everybody's gone. If anyone's work is burned, he will suffer loss. Didn't that whole company of people suffer loss? Didn't it not? Didn't Adam suffer loss? But guess what? He said, when I fulfill it, Yahushua fulfilled it. I'm going to bring you back to the garden. And as a matter of fact, in that water, that water that you were talking about, that you were thirsty, you thought it was a curse, it's going to be a barak to you. Though he himself will be saved. And he said, I'm going to come save you. Adam was joyful. He said, he told me to stay here. He's going to save me. But only as through fire. Because you cannot immerse you with water. But he said, but you're going to be immersed with fire. Do you not know that you are Yahuwah's temple, and Yahuwah's Ruach dwells in you? If anyone destroys the temple, Yahuwah's temple, Yahuwah will destroy him. For Yahuwah's temple is Chdsh, and you are that temple. Let no one deceive himself. If anyone among you thinks he is wise in his age, let him become a fool, that he may become wise. For the wisdom of this world is folly with Yahuwah. For it is written, he catches the wise in their craftiness. He said, I see you. And again, Yahuwah knows the thoughts of the wise, that they are futile. So let no one boast in men. For all things are yours, all things are yours. Let's skip it over. It's Matthew 21, 33 through 33 through 45. We'll skip through some of it. 33 through 45. Here another parable. There was a master of the house who planted a vineyard and put a fence around it, and dug a wine press in it, and built a tower and leased it to tenants, and went into another country. And when the season of the fruit drew near, he sent his servants to the tenants to get his fruit. And the tenants took his servants to beat one, the tenants took his servants and beat one, and killed another and stoned another. Now you see why Yahushua was mad. Yahuwah was mad in the wilderness. You was mad when they spoiled the land. He said, you done took the tenants and the servants, you done took his servants and tried to kill them and stone them. And again, he sent other servants more than the first. And they did the same to them. So you think you above them? No. Finally, he sent his son, saying, they will respect my son. I sent my debar. But when the tenants saw the son, they said to themselves, this is the heir. Let us kill him and have his inheritance. Why you say think the iniquity of the fathers and their faithlessness fell on the children and the shepherds that became shepherds? And they took him and threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. You think them older people weren't going? You think them older people that were going? He said, "Your children gonna be shepherds, and then they gonna be leading us." What do you think will happen? You don't want them doing that. They threw him out of the vineyard. He killed Yahushua Mashiach. You see what happened to him? When therefore the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do to those tenants? They said to him, he will put those wretches to a miserable death. Now you see, you remember they say your children are going to become a prey. He says, and let out the vineyard to other tenants who will give him the fruits in their season. He said, the ones from 19 and down, they're going to be the ones that's going to be the people that's going to lead. Yahushua said to them, have you read the scriptures? The stone which the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. How long will these people despise me? This is Yahuwah's doing, and it's marvelous in your eyes. Therefore I tell you, the kingdom of Yahuwah will be taken away from you. Didn't they have an opportunity to take the kingdom? It was right there in their face after 40 days to come out of Mizraim. Right? They weren't even in the wilderness that long. They were just getting there. They were just getting there. And then what happened after that? It was taken away from them and given to a people producing its fruits. Because the fruit is Amunah. And that Amunah, that faith, is the only thing that allows the fruits to grow. And they had the opportunity to take the Malkut, but they didn't have no Amunah. So Yahuwah had to delay the Barak in order for them to take it. Because they couldn't take it. And the one who falls on this stone will be broken into pieces. And when it falls on anyone, it will crush him. When the chief priests and the Pharisees heard his parable, they perceived that he was speaking about them. Yahushua told them straight to their face, I'm talking about y'all, because your children are going to be the ones that's going to lead and be shepherds. And although they were seeking to arrest him, they feared the crowds because they held him to be a Nabi, not those 10 tribes that were in Midbar when they spoiled the land. They didn't hold those people to be Nabi. Matter of fact, they were trying to kill them and stone them. And the people did not, what? And the crowds did not see them as anybody, because they were trying to just stone them. And that was the whole point, right? And people say, what do you mean? This is Matthew 21, 18 through 22. In the morning he was returning to the city, and he became hungry. And seeing a fig tree by the wayside, he went to it and found nothing on it but only leaves. And he said to it, may no fruit ever come from you again. And the fig tree withered at once. Let me just read that. Adam saw what they did to the fig tree, and it shriveled. It was a tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He was like, you see what happened to that fig? That thing started to wither. It started to shrivel up. And when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, how did this fig tree wither at once? That's what Adam did. Adam was like, what's going on? And Yahushua answered them, truly I say to you, if you have Amunah and do not doubt, you will not only do what has been done to the fig tree, which means that you ain't tapped into this yet. You ain't tapped into this. But even if you say to this mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, it will happen. He said it's going to happen. Why do you think Cop said, silver and gold I have not, but one thing I do have? Rise and walk. Qahalath. And the man rose up from where he sat. Qahalath. Right where he sat. Just by speaking. Just by speaking. And it will happen. Why do you think he said to Sapphira? He said your body they're going to carry out. And immediately she fell to the ground. Why do you think Yahuwah killed those people in the wilderness when they got to the land and they didn't want to go take down the giants? He's like, and they despised everything he said. He said they don't believe. They ain't got no Amunah. They were afraid. And being that they didn't have that type of ability, they couldn't take down the Nephilim. They couldn't take down the walls. They didn't have no belief. But when you believe with Amunah and you say something, it's going to happen. You be like, man, that thing happened exactly what I said. He said, you might want to control your power. Verse 22, and whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have Amunah. And that's another part. And it ain't just and what you ask in prayer. So if you have Amunah just to speak and things happen, and then whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive. So that's two separate things. He said, so you can speak things and things happen. He's like, yeah. You can speak, you can pray things and you will receive things, yeah. If you have Amunah. But that's belief. But that's the same thing. But he said, Adam, when I fulfill everything, I'm going to bring you back. And that's what he just did. He fulfilling everything he told Adam. He said, I'm going to bring you back to the garden. Because Adam was supposed to have, this is the whole thing he wanted to give to Adam. Everything you see, he wanted to give to Adam. I wanted to give to Adam. See, Adam didn't even get to this part. This is the same day I made Kawul, the same day he transgressed. He's like, they only was here for one day. I made Adam, I created Kawul. And then they transgressed the same day. He's like, man, I couldn't even get into this point. He said, Adam, don't worry about it. I'm going to come back in a long time and I'm going to get you. He's like, I'm going to save you. He's like, for real? What do you think this is? This is saving Adam. This is Yukonon 16, 12 through 15. I still have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. He's like, you can't answer. He said, you ain't grown up yet. You ain't big enough. We still got to grow up. When the Ruach of truth comes, he will guide you into all truth, and he will not speak of his own authority, but whatever he hears, he will speak. And he will declare to you the things that are to come. He will kabod me, for he will take what is mine and declare it to you. All that my Father has given is mine, therefore I tell you. Therefore I said, he will take what is mine, and he's going to declare it to you. This Dead Sea Scrolls 4Q257. These are the paths in the world that enlighten the heart of Adam. That's the whole point. This is all about Adam. Straighten out in front of him all the paths of true justice. That's the whole point. What are you talking about? We're going to straighten this out. We talk about the two-faced people. He said, straighten it out. It's true justice. That's what it is. Establish in his heart respect for the precepts of Elohim in the Ruach of meekness, because that's what they didn't do. They didn't respect Yahuwah the bar when he spoke. He said, how long are people going to despise me and not respect my words? Of patience and generous compassion, eternal goodness, intelligence, understanding, and potent wisdom, which trust in all the deeds of Elohim and depends on his abundant mercy. Isn't that what we just read in the first book of Adam and Kua? They depend on his abundant mercy. He's like, you gonna save me? He said, yeah, stay here in Jerusalem. Matter of fact, stay in this cave of treasures. TV and do it, power on high. He's like, and you gonna come and save me? He's like, yeah. In the ruach of knowledge and all plans of action, of enthusiasm decrees, of justice and set apart plans with firm purpose and generous compassion, we're all the sons of truth, of magnificent purity which detests all unclean idols, of careful behavior and wisdom concerning everything. That's what they didn't do. That's what Adam and Cool do. When you see two-faced things start happening, you're like, I can't eat that. You eat that tree you want to, you're going to die. Matter of fact, you're going to start doubting, not having Amunah. You're going to lose all your battles. All they're going to do is try to get you to doubt in your mind about what Yahuwah said he's going to do for you. And then we know what happens after that. You want to go back to Mizraim. Matter of fact, Yahuwah say, I'm going to put you in Mizraim again with ships. You be like, how we got back to Mizraim? He said, you ain't going to be able to say your own name anymore. They be like, no, your name is that, what do you say? Pound 8444899. What's my name? Pound 4814899. That's going to be your name. That's literally what's going to be your name. He said, that's going to be my name, a barcode. You ain't even going to be able to say your name. It's illegal. You can't have no emotions whatsoever. You know, like Equilibrium, that movie. You know that movie Equilibrium? You want to go back to Mizraim, that's what Mizraim has got. It done got advanced now. Mizraim a whole nother level now. You want to go back to Mizraim now? It's a whole nother level now. Mizraim, I want to go back to Mizraim. He said, man, you sure? Man, it's a whole nother level now. A ruach of knowledge, it says, a concealment concerning it says, which detests all unclean idols, which careful behavior and wisdom concerning everything. Of concealment concerning the true mysteries of the knowledge. These are the foundations of the ruach, the sons of truth in the world, and the reward of those who walk in it will be healing. Do not forget Yahuwah's benefits. Barak Yahuwah, oh my soul, all that within me, Barak is Qahalath's name, who heals all your diseases. Right? He heals all of it. Plentiful peace and long life, who extends your life. Fruitful offspring with an everlasting Barak, eternal enjoyment in this light, a crown of kabod with majestic raiment and eternal light. He's like, he read it again. I said, yeah. Because this verse go with everything. You just don't understand it. However, the ruach of deceit belongs greed. And we just read that in the Aquarium. He said, men go into the lower planes of themselves. Greed, selfishness. Right? That was the thing he said. This is your lower self. Your lower planes of who you are. Sluggishness in the service of justice, wickedness, falsehood, pride, haughtiness of heart, dishonesty, trickery, cruelty, much insecurity, impatience. Right? Much foolishness, impudent enthusiasm for appalling acts performed in lustful passion, filthy past in the service of impurity, blasphemous tongue, blindness of eyes, hardness of hearing, stiffness of neck, hardness of heart, in order to walk in the paths of darkness and evil cunning. Why? The evil fruit. Two-faced. That's all it is. And the visitation of those who walk in it will be abundance of affliction by the hand of the Malachia of destruction and eternal damnation and scorching wrath, but Elohim that revenges. For permanent terror and shame without end, humiliation and destruction by the fire of the dark regions, of all the ages and their generations. And then we just read that in Numbers chapter 13 and 14. They shall spend in bitter weeping and harsh evils in the abyss of darkness and destruction, until destruction. Now you see why they were weeping. Remember they wept real loud after they heard what was in the land, and they started crying. That's the beginning of them demons. Right? That's the beginning of destruction. When Yahuwah already said something, you got to have Amunah to go do it, and then you start to hear doubt and error, and you start weeping because of the error and doubt. That's the beginning of your destruction. That's why Caleb stopped them from talking. That's the beginning of your destruction. That's the beginning of the demons coming in your heart and your mind. And then you know what happened? Without there being a remnant or survivor for them, your dead body's going to be on the ground after 40 years, and your children are going to be shepherds, and they're going to bear your sin. That's how it works. You got to have a mindset to keep going. It don't matter if people start doubting what Yahuwah say. You say, no, man. No. That's male and female. You can't do that. Ephesians chapter 2, 14 to 22. For he himself is our peace, shalom, who has made us both one and has broken down in his flesh the dividing of wall of hostility, to abolish by the law of commandments expressed in ordinances, that he might create in himself one new man in place of the two, so making shalom, and might reconcile us both to Yahuwah in one body through totality. That's why I said two become one. Therefore, killing hostility, and he came to Qahalath, or preached the shalom to you who were far off, and shalom to those who are near. For through him we have access in one ruach to the Father. So then you are no longer strangers and aliens, but you are fellow citizens with the Chdsh, members of his household of Yahuwah, built on the foundations of the Shalakim and the Nabi'im. Mashiach himself being the cornerstone. In him the whole structure being joined together grows into the Kodash temple of Yahuwah, in Yahuwah. In him also are being built together into a dwelling place for Yahuwah by the Ruach. Right, that's the whole point, right? This Galatians 5, 7 through 7. Galatians 5 and 7, and 13 through 24. It says, you are running well. Who hindered you from obeying the truth? Other people. Their words. That knowledge of tree, the knowledge of good and evil. Shaitan, he wanted to seek the headship and see Yahuwah as useless, just like the people in the wilderness did. And they, in Midbar, when they spotted the land, they saw Yahuwah as useless. They didn't want to trust him anymore, and they want to go back to Mizraim. This persuasion is not from him who calls you. A little leaven leavens the whole lump. That little bit of leaven they had leavened the whole body, and they had to wait 40 years. Think about that. Think about other people. He's like, man, so you telling me I'm waiting 40 years, I still can't hear you. Like, yeah. You got to have Amunah. You got to endure to the end, shall be saved. He said, what? Verse 13, for you were called to freedom, brothers and sisters. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh. That's what happens. He said, Adam and Kuah, you have a lot of freedom, but in your own free will, you transgress the commandment. Don't do it. But through love, serve one another. That's the fruit of love, ahava, gentleness on the throne. For the whole law is fulfilled in one word. You shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's what the 10 heads didn't do. And then the other people followed suit. And then they started wanting to stone Caleb and Yahusha. And everybody rose up. And they wanted to destroy people. But if you bite and devour one another, watch out that you are not consumed one another. You're not consumed by one another. That's what happened to them. But I say, walk by the Ruach, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the desires of the flesh are against the Ruach. The Ruach is do what Yahuwah said. The Ruach, to go against it, you're walking in the flesh. The desires of the Ruach are against the flesh, and these are opposed to each other. That's why everybody was fighting. To keep you from doing what things you want to do. But if you are led by the Ruach, you are not under the law. For now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife. Right? That's what they had. Jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissension, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these. I warn you, as I warned you before, even in the Torah, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah. So, but the Ruach of, it says that, but the Ruach of the Spirit is love. The fruit of the Ruach is love. Ahava, joy, shalom, patience, arak, kindness, kasid, goodness, ta'od, faithfulness, amunah, gentleness, enu, self-control. Against such there is no law. And those who belong to Mashiach Yahusha have crucified the flesh in its passions and desires. Right? So this is Psalm 32, 6-9. Therefore, let everyone who is kasid offer prayer to you at the time when you may be found. As a matter of fact, whatever you ask in prayer in my name, if you have Amunah, it will be given to you. Surely in the rush of great waters they shall not reach him. He said, Caleb and Yahusha, they ain't touching you. You are a hiding place for me. You preserve me from trouble. You surround me with shouts of deliverance. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. And I will counsel you with my eye on you. Be not like a horse and a mule without understanding, which must be curbed with bits and bridle, or it will not stay near you. We going back to Mizraim next week. They went back to Mizraim. They wanted to go back immediately. But it said, therefore let everyone who is kind or faithful offer prayer to you in the time he may be found. They got to have Amunah, faithful ones. That means they got Amunah, belief. And whatever they ask in Yahuwah's name, he going to give it to them. This Psalm 37, go to Psalm 37 and 9. For evildoers shall be cut off, but those who wait for Yahuwah shall inherit the Aydah. And I see why they had to wait 40 years, but they were waiting. But the evildoers was getting cut off. He was like, I got to cut these people off. 40 years. They're going to be dead on the street. And their descendants going to die off. In just a little while, the wicked will be no more. Though you look carefully at his place, he will not be there. But the meek, the Aydah, shall inherit the Aydah. That's what Yahushua was teaching. Yahushua was teaching this. Barak are the meek, the Aydah, for they shall inherit the Aydah, and delight themselves in the abundance of shalom. Right, so from meek is Aydah. It means poor, humble, afflicted, lowly, meek, humble. Right? Nazarene asked the Shalakim how demons get power with men, women, and children, and groups, and tribes, and heads. Right? Therefore, demons, as we have just said, when once they have been able by means of opportunities afforded them to convey themselves through base and evil actions into the bodies of men, women, and children. If they remain in them a long time through their own negligence, because they do not seek after what is profitable for their inner beings, they necessarily compel them in the future to fulfill the desires of the demons that dwell in them. So why do you think Yahushua said they got to die? Yahuwah said they got to die? Because they still had the demons inside of them. The Shadim was still inside of them. He already knew they're going to fulfill the desires of the demons that dwell in them. You think that was the only time they had a little something happen? No. It continued on after that. They had the desires of the Shadim on the inside of them to fulfill it until they all died. But what is worst of all, at the end of the age, that's why you don't need them, have them inside of you. When that demon is co-signed the ageless fire, of necessity the Ruach also that obeyed him, will with him be tortured in ageless fire together with his body it has polluted. Now you see why those 10 heads came back, polluted the people. Then the other people polluted other people. And then they started to what? They transferred, like we talked about, they fell away and they started being trifling. Then they started transmitting it to other people. And then by that, they started hating each other, wanted to kill each other and stone each other. They got poisoned. And that's what happens when you hear slander, gossip, lying, false accusations, and doubt and error. After you hear the mercy and all this stuff, and you start destroying people's lives, and guess what happens? It says that when the demons will be co-signed the ageless fire of necessity, the Ruach also that obeyed him will with him be tortured in ageless fire together with his body it has polluted. The whole body gets destroyed. Because people don't think about their other people when it happens. But that's all part of it, right? Romans chapter 12, verse 1. I appeal to you, therefore, men, women, and children, by the mercies of Yahuwah, to present your bodies a living sacrifice. Qhdsh and acceptable to Yahuwah, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world. But be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what the will of Yahuwah is. What is good and acceptable and perfect. Right? You got to understand that. Philippians 3, 12 through 21. Not that I have already obtained or that I am already perfect, but I press on to make it my own, because Mashiach Yahushua has made me his own. Brothers, I do not consider, and sisters, I do not consider I made it my own, but one thing I do. Forget what lies behind and straining forward what lies ahead. What do you think, when they got the commandment, what's going to happen to everybody? You think everybody had time to think about it? He's like, man, I gotta keep going forward. You think them children, them 19-year-olds and under, they like, man, we gotta keep going. Even though Yahuwah said they all gonna die. The day you eat of it, you shall surely die. They ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil from their heads. They came back. But the day they ate and people ate from it, they all died. He's like, man, all your dead bodies gonna be. And being that you reacted to the knowledge of good and evil, and you were warm within yourself, and you wanted to stone people. That's why you got to be real, real careful. Remember, they knew. I mean, they were instructed. They knew a whole bunch of stuff, right? But brothers, I do not consider that I have made it my own, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward what lies ahead. I press on to the goal of the prize of the upward call of Yahushua Mashiach. Let those who are mature think this way. He said, you got to be real mature. And if anything you think otherwise, Yahuwah will reveal that also to you. Only let us hold true to what we have attained. Keep holding to it. Then women and children, join in imitating me and keep your eyes on those who walk as an example as you have in us. Why do you think Caleb and he left Caleb and Yahusha as the examples? He said everybody else? No. For many of whom I often told you and now tell you, even with tears, walk as enemies of the cross of Mashiach. They ain't got no Amunah. And then what them people were? They were enemies. They tried to stone them. They were saying all these things. Then they say they want to go back to Mizraim. Then they listen to the heads that brought it, though. And they all got poisoned. They all enemies of the Yahushua Mashiach. Why do you think they want to stone them? They had no Amunah. Why do you think Satan rose up and he sought the headship? He see Yahuwah as useless. Yahuwah said, I threw him down. Because he was seeking the headship without me. Their end is now, he says, their end is destruction. That's why they were happening to them. And their God, their Elohim, is their belly. He was like, man, we're going to go back to Mizraim. Right? You know it's there. And their kabod is their shame. For he said, with their minds set on earthly things. That's what happened to them. But our citizenship is in the Shamayim, and we await a Yasha, a Savior, the Master Yahushua Mashiach, who will transform our lowly body to be like his magnificent body by the power that enables him to subject all things to himself. This is Romans 8, 6-11. For to set your mind on the flesh is death. Why do you think all those people did? But to set your mind on the Ruach is life and shalom. For the mind that is set on the flesh is hostile to Yahuwah. For it does not submit to Yahuwah's law. Indeed, it cannot. Those who are the flesh cannot please Yahuwah. You, however, are not in the flesh, but in the Ruach. If in fact the Ruach of Yahuwah dwells in you, anyone who does not have the Ruach of Mashiach does not belong to him. But if Mashiach Yahusha is in you, although the body is dead because of sin, the Ruach is life because of righteousness. Because it tends to righteousness. Righteousness tends to the way that is blameless. If the Ruach of him who raised up Yahusha from the dead dwells in you, he who raised Mashiach from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies. Rise up, Yahuwah, and let your enemies be scattered. Through the Ruach that dwells in you. Right? Romans 13, 12-16. So Yahusha also suffered outside the gate in order to sanctify the people through his own blood. Therefore, let us go to him outside the camp and bear the reproach he endured. For here we have no lasting city, but we seek a city that's to come, even though they wanted that natural city. But he's saying we seeking a city that's to come. They were supposed to get that inheritance, right? But they had to wait 40 years. But now we're seeking something that's to come. We got to have Amunah to attain it. And we can't have doubt and error in our mind. And we can't say things out of our mouth. And we have to make sure we keep our eyes on things above and not on things on the earth. Because if you think on things on the earth, you're going to go after things in the earth and of the flesh. And then you're going to lose something that is more precious than anything on earth. That is the fruit of our lips, and acknowledge his name. Because you got to tend to your fig tree. You got to tend to your lashon, your language, your lips, your words. Or you're going to eat the fruits of your lips. Do not neglect to do good and to share what you have. They shared what they have. Them 10 tribes that came, them 10 heads came, they shared what they have. And you saw what happened to them. But when Caleb and Yahusha shared what they had, it was different. For such sacrifices are pleasing to Yahuwah, right? I just Psalms 119, 160, 1-66. 160 through 166. The bar is true, is truth from the beginning. and every one of thy righteous judgments endures forever. Princes Tsar have persecuted me without a cause, but my heart stands in awe of thy debar. I rejoice at the debar as one that finds great sport. I hate and abhor lying, but thy law do I love. 7 times a day do I praise, halal thee, because of your righteous judgments. So you think they were praising 7 times a day when Yahuwah said their body's gonna be on the ground? No. But what made them praise him now for these 49 days going towards Kal Shabuah? That Yahuwah is risen, that Yahushua Mashiach is risen, and for 40 days he gave us Khan. And for 40 days he was explaining to us the understanding of Yahushua Mashiach and how he pardoned everyone. How he pardoned everyone. Why? Because once they died, the sons took over. He pardoned everyone. But he said, if you become like a little children, then guess what? Children will lead you. If you become like children, children gonna lead you. And you know what happens after that? You get eternal life. He said, who's the greatest? The one who humbles himself like this child? 7 times a day do I halal thee because of thy righteous judgments. For 49 days straight. So he's talking about all the way to the last day. What's the 50th day? Great shalom have they that love thy Torah, and nothing shall offend them. Yahuwah, I hope for thy Yeshua, and done thy commandments. Right? 3 more. It says, Aleph Yukanan, 1, 2. Aleph Yukanan, 1st Yukanan 2, 24 through 28. Let what you heard from the beginning abide in you. And if what you heard from the beginning abides in you, then you too will abide in the Son and the Father. Why? What do you think that? What do you think that was? The life of the house and the strength of the house. Because the strength of the house is the actual Aleph of the house, but the Son is the life of the house, right? But it says, and this is the promise he has made to us, eternal life. I write these things about those who are trying to deceive you. But the anointing you receive from him abides in you. You have no need that anyone should teach you. But as his anointing teaches you about everything, and it's true, it is no lie, just as it is taught you, abide in him. And now, little children, abide in him, so that when he appears, you may have confidence and not shrink from him in shame at his coming. Why? Because he's coming back. Because if you let other people teach you, after you heard what Yahuwah already said, you're going to be like those dead people in the wilderness. Because Yahuwah already told them what to say. He already told them about the land that they were going to inherit. But you know what happened after they heard the words of the 10 tribes, the heads of the 10? The people got poisoned, and they let somebody else teach them something other than what Yahushua, the Mashiach they proclaimed. They should have let them be a curse. But they didn't. And they took in their seed, and they heard it with their ozen, with their ear, and they hear with their ears, and understood with their heart. And they were converted over to the teaching of those 10 that err in doubt. And then when Caleb and Yahushua rose up to try to silence the people, they tried to stone them and kill them. And now little children abide in him. You know, the children that was going to be shepherds. So that when he appears, you may have confidence and not shrink from him in shame at his coming. Why? Because you didn't do what he said, right? This is Sirach 3, 17 to 23. My son and daughter, go on thy business that ain't new. So should I be beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. Many are in high place and of renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the meek. For the power of Yahuwah is great, and honor with the lowly. Seek not all things that are too hard for thee. These are search for things that are above thy strength. But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence. For it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. Be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men, women, and people and children understand. Right? So this is the essence of truth. The communions. page 264. It says, and on the first evening after Shabbat, say these words, Malach of eternal life, descend upon me and give eternal life to my Ruach. And close your eyes, sons of light, and sleep and contemplate the oneness of all life everywhere. Right? It's all life everywhere. For I tell you truly, in the daylight hours are our feet on the ground, and we have no wings with which to fly. But our spirits, our Ruach, are not tied to the earth. And with the coming of night, we overcome our attachment to the earth and join with that which is eternal. For the Son of Man is not all, the son of Adam is not all that he seems. And only with the eyes of the Ruach can we see the golden threads, right? So that would just, to set your mind on the flesh is death. To set your mind on the Ruach is life, which link us to all life everywhere. Because he says what? Because he said this stuff is not on earth. So we look at all these things. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. We look at Amunah, belief. And to have that Amunah within oneself is to learn to soar beyond the realm of the Malachim. For all these are a part of this understanding of the golden threads, and even the gold, it says the pure gold, that one will come out as one travels along the seven celestial circles toward the longest day. And all these things and the fruits that bear inside of you, and the things that you attain throughout this life, even during this 49-day count, is all a part of a belief that one has to have, and to take one's mind out of the necessary things and the complex things of this carnal world, take one to the world of the Ruach, where love and compassion and gentleness and meekness and enu are there, and true Amunah. When one prays, one will receive the actual things that they pray for. When it has Amunah, you can say to things, and things will happen. All these are a part of your transformation within. And by transforming your mind and being transformed by the renewal of your mind, the demons will be extinguished like a spark of fire when they see Amunah growing in man and woman. Once they see the understanding of the Bina Hamad Da'af within oneself grow, then they extinguish it as a spark of fire, and that Amunah can now cancel them out, and they no longer can fulfill the desires that's within you. And that Amunah is through to the bar, and the understanding of who Yahushua Mashiach is, even in not just these 40 days, not just this 49-day count, but also through a full 364-day cycle fixed with the 12 gates in New Jerusalem, and the 4 gates, 3 to the north, 3 to the south, 3 to the east, and 3 to the west. Knowing that this understanding is all throughout the 4 corners of oneself. And we should live in this world. We live in this world, we are not of it. But to live in this world, one has to still walk, even as he walked. Did no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth, and not walk in the lower planes of oneself of greed and selfishness. But allow love, ahaba, and gentleness to reign on your throne, in your inner man. That your true light, your true nature of who you are, may be demonstrated in your yard and your kaf, in your left and right hand, and not with stones to throw and not miss. And not with your feet. Your regal take you to places, allow you to walk in field of flowers, and when you walk, the flowers spring up. Even as the rain falls on your head and falls to your feet. Even as it falls on your head and falls to your feet, and makes your fruits grow, it falls to the ground and makes plants grow. And then flowers will appear. And everything that you do on a day-to-day basis will be of true light and true love for all the realms and all things, and be the golden threads that attach you to all living things everywhere. That your love and your compassion may be extended to all creatures and all people in your inner man. And that your love and your truth, the truth, may be able to move you away from the things that hold you bound. You may transform yourself by the renewing of your mind. So we look at all this, we look at everything that Yahuwah has allowed us to see and understand. And knowing that his love and compassion, and there's a lot more that he must say in order for one to really completely understand it. So we live in this world, we are not of it. We look to, he said, walk in righteousness. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek, the Anu shall inherit the Aydah.